It's been 84 years, and I could still smell the fresh paint. The china had never been used. The sheets had never been slept in. Oopsie Daisy was called the podcast of dreams, and it was. It truly was.
Seriously though, when's the last time we actually posted an episode?
84 years.
It was 4 months ago, and we were talking about the Life with Luca update. Well, we were talking about that we were getting a TV movie. They had just, I think, filmed and finished the TV movie. So now, for this episode, we actually watched Life with Luca. It premiered in Canada on February 20th for their Family Day.
Oh, right. It was Family Day. I had the day off.
That's a really bad comedian.
I had the day off. Let me live. I was not home. I was out playing inebriated Lego on PlayStation. It's not a game. It's just one of those Lego games, but we just drank a lot and played. So that's why I'm not a good Canadian, and I didn't watch it because I was inebriated.
But the last episode we posted for the podcast was 11 months ago, Vanessa.
Yeah, 84 years.
This is all Vanessa's fault that we don't have podcasts.
Excuse me? It's always your fault.
This morning, well, actually, we were supposed to do this last night, and
I was being healthy.
Yeah, Vanessa went to the gym. But she was like, oh, we could probably do it tomorrow night. And I was sacrificing my sleep in order to be like, yeah, okay, we'll do the podcast. And then she was like, no, actually, no, we're not going to do it. We're going to do it tomorrow. And I was like, okay, fine. Of course, I still didn't sleep. I didn't get to bed until like 6 a.m. This morning. So I woke up at 11:30, and here we are less than 2 hours from that.
Listen, I warned you. I said, hey, I could possibly, but I'll let you know. And then the person didn't text me, and I had to text them, and I was like, hey, we doing this? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, okay, I can't do this. Bye. You gotta go.
But then Vanessa just has a life. So, you know.
Yeah, I do have a life.
So every time I ask her, are you free Saturday or Sunday? She's like, yeah, I think so. And then it comes to that day, and then she's like, oh, wait, no, sorry, I can't do it.
Listen, I get kidnapped.
And one time you were sick.
Yeah, one time I was sick, but I get kidnapped a lot by my friends. They're like, hey, it's Sunday. It's time to go get brunch. And I'm like, yeah, that's who I am now. I get brunch every weekend. And it's like the best part of my week.
And then half of those like weekends I'm at my parents or something. So
yeah, so it's actually your fault because you're like, I have a family. I gotta go.
Well, there's nowhere for them to do it. I don't have a house at their. I don't have a house. I don't have a room at their place.
Just tell them to fuck off for 2 hours.
I don't think so.
Yes.
So, with Life with Luca, this is the movie. There's a few things to be known before we start. And also, if you haven't watched the movie and you don't want to know spoilers, you shouldn't probably be listening to this yet.
Spoiler alert!
Yes, spoiler alert. So, the background for this movie, it takes place 18 years after the series. Despite that, it's only been 14 years since the series ended. And Casey, she is married to a hockey player who plays overseas in Europe, and his name is Peter.
Sounds familiar to, like, her real life, you know?
Well, yeah, so she has 3 kids with Peter. Luca, who is 14 years old, and then a little girl, Molly, who is 8, and a little boy, Kai, who is 7. But yeah, this, I don't know if they just did it because Ashley's husband, Jeremy, is a hockey player who plays overseas in Europe.
I mean, probably. They're like, what could be her husband?
But as we get into it, there's a big difference between Casey being married to a hockey player who plays in Europe versus Ashley, who has, because it's just, we'll get to it.
I just like the thought of they had no idea what to do for a husband for her, and she went, "Guys, it's okay. I'm married to a hockey player. He plays in Europe, and I have 3 kids. It's perfect.
I could totally play this. It's me.
It's me. This is my life."
So yeah, it's like I don't know if they did it because like it was just an easy profession and like, it's like if we have any questions, we'll just ask Ashley.
Yeah. How is it? How do you live alone all this time? Well,
But
let me
that's the
tell you.
thing. Ashley doesn't live alone that often. She goes and spends time with her husband most of the time. Like her job allows her to do that because she's not working 9 to 5 every
It's
week.
true. It's
Whereas
true. Like,
Ashley, where Casey, she is doing that. So it's like she can't go with him. Ashley at least
right.
can go with him and spend time with him. Casey can't.
Maybe she's living her like best fantasy life with this movie. She's like, I'm a stay-home mom now. I don't know. Like, who the fuck wants to be a stay-home mom? But okay.
She's a lawyer.
Yeah. I mean, not to give away anything, but that outfit she wears is a lawyer's outfit.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it's
That's a Canadian thing.
yeah, it's a Canadian thing.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like I saw someone in the comments is like she looks like she's a judge, and it's just like
No, that's what all Canadian lawyers do. They still follow like the English law thing, so they all wear those like weird ass gowns from like the 1400s. It's a thing.
like she just walked off the Mayflower or something.
Yeah, it's literally it. I used to work at like a building that was like connected to the Crown Council, which is like the lawyers kind of thing. So every once in a while, you'd see like a bunch of lawyers walking off in their fucking robes, and you'd be like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "Oh, they're like." I'm like, "Oh, where are you off to?" And they're like, "Oh, just gonna go convict a murderer now. Bye." And I was like, "Oh." I'm like, "And that? Okay."
And that
Not
you
the
look like
most
you're ready to
flash.
put them on a stake or something.
Yeah, I was like, this isn't Salem, but okay, you do you.
So, and then also Derek, he now lives in Paris, France. And he is a rock star, and it seemed a very successful rock star at that. And he has a 14-year-old daughter, Skylar. And it doesn't look like he's in any long-term serious relationship at all.
Is this mirroring? Mirroring. I can't even talk. Mirror. Like their actual lives. Like, is there anything like is Mike in a relationship with someone?
Yeah.
Okay, see, I don't know that, so I was like, oh, it's just the real life. They're just portraying their real lives.
No. Well, I mean, he doesn't. He's not a rock star, so obviously that's not.
I mean, obviously, did you see him play the guitar?
And also, there's another backstory of that Derek didn't go. He didn't stay in college, at least. It looks like he went 1 year and then he dropped out, and then
Classic.
he went over to Europe. So that's another piece of background information that we have going forward.
Before we start,
Mm-hmm.
did you like the movie?
I did. I mean, it basically, to me, it was everything I kind of wanted to happen, knowing how they were like setting the parameters of like Casey's married and has these 3 kids, and like Derek just has a kid the same age as, like Luca. And so, like, knowing this stuff, I was like, this is exactly how I want it to happen, where you don't see significant others
Mm-hmm.
and you just have Derek and Casey basically co-parenting and acting like parents the whole movie, despite not being married.
Shockingly, I did not like the movie.
What?
I didn't like it. I don't know if it was because I'm old now. I'm old as fuck. Or it was just like I was missing the dynamic that was as well the family being there. Like, I wasn't happy that we didn't have Lizzie, Edwin, or Marty.
See, I seem to be in the minority there, whereas like I really didn't give a fuck that they were not in the movie. Like, it would have been nice if they were in it, but I never watched Life with Derek for those.
I know, I didn't either.
So, like, just having Derek and Casey was enough. Like, if no one else in the whole freaking universe showed up, I wouldn't have cared. Like, it just.
I was just like, I just hated everything. Like, I hated the kids. I
Oh, I
was
thought they
like,
were cute, especially the younger kids.
no, I hated them. I hated all of them. I was like, I would gladly get rid of these kids and bring back, like, the siblings. I was like, I can't. Even if their roles were so small, I was just like, I can't. I just couldn't. I was like, this is gonna be torture. And yeah, I was like, I can't handle it. It was too over the top though, too.
I didn't
Like the
think it was
kids were
that
just,
much over the top than the regular series. I
I
mean,
don't
that's
know, like
the demographic is for
I
like
know. It
12 to
is.
like
And that's why I'm
14
like,
year olds essentially. So it's like it's basically the guy.
it's because I'm old. That's probably why it was. I hated it.
But see, watching this, it was so much easier than watching Girl Meets World. I felt
No.
I felt like Girl Meets World was way too over the top. Whereas here, it's like, yeah, stupid shit happened, but
Hmm.
I still felt like it was in like they didn't make it too sugary. Like I was like, they still had the grandparent storyline and like that was happening. Like that would never happen on Disney. Like for the like they
Yeah.
like what was it? Like the party they were going to, like someone's still sexy at 60 or something like that. They would never have something like that.
I was trying to be like, what did I miss? I thought you were talking about Girl Meets World, and I was like, that never happened in Girl Meets World. I was so confused.
But like they weren't there. The thing I liked about Life with Derek and even this movie was that like it's still for kids, but like it really, you can, like, a whole family can watch it and still enjoy it. Whereas I feel like with like shows like Girl Meets World now, it's very much catered to that demographic, and like parents really can't connect with what's happening in it either, if
Hmm.
that makes sense, because it's just too kiddie. Like they feel like they have to tiptoe around certain subjects. Where Life with Derek's like, no, we're still gonna like say something that maybe that might be a little controversial, but that might be a Canadian thing as well. Then
You
like,
know what though? I can't connect to the fact that these people literally bought a mansion in Ontario, and I was like, bro, that's like $1 bazillion. That's not realistic, George. Nora, I can't even. I can't.
well, it did look like a mansion, but it was in.
It was huge.
Well, from the outside, it didn't look
I kind of
huge.
looked like a plantation house. It kind of reminded me of a plantation house for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, it was in
Like
the like the rural area of the whatever, so.
yeah, and then they're like, Casey, you have a guest house in your backyard? And I was like, no, that's not real. I can't connect to this. I know you're a lawyer. You make all this. No, that's too expensive.
Well, Casey's a lawyer and her husband's a hockey player, so I think they have enough
In
money.
Europe.
Yeah, but still, I think they live pretty comfortably.
Yeah, because he ain't bringing home the bacon in Europe with.
But literally, keep going back to um, Girl Meets World because it's just another comparison kind of series, and I know that we both watched it.
Oh, yeah, I
How the
get it, yeah.
hell were they living in New York in that apartment, despite Topanga, yes, being a lawyer, but Corey was a freaking teacher and he gets paid pennies, okay?
You're
Like,
right.
that was unrealistic too, okay, Vanessa?
Because we know
And you
that
can think
Topanga was
that
bringing home the bacon.
I don't think that much bacon.
Yeah, she owned a restaurant
No.
and was a lawyer. She had the bacon.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
No, we're not. This is
Yes,
the
we
real
are.
discussion.
So essentially, we're gonna start the movie. So it starts off in Paris, and we see Skylar on this like scooter going to this club, and she goes to this bouncer, and she was like, "Hey, like I'm here for the show," and the bouncer is like, "For the Wiggles? Like, no, get out of here."
I
Which I
was
thought was
just
funny. Um, But Skylar's like, no, like I'm supposed to be here. And then she sees this guy that she knows who ends up being Derek's drummer of the band. His name's Hugo. And so
It's
Hugo
very
gets her
French.
into, huh?
It's very French. It's a very French name.
Who said it needed to be French?
I don't know. I'm just saying. It's a very French name.
Well, who said he had to be French, though?
Because he has an accent.
Okay, but he also knows like 600 languages.
I'm just saying. It's a very French name. He had a French accent. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe
That's all I'm saying. I'm calling the police. You're being rude to me.
that's just a nickname, though.
Maybe.
But Hugo, so he gets her into the club. And then we see Derek up on stage, because this is like a private, like secret show apparently. So it's not like a huge concert. And so he's up on stage and he starts performing his like newest song off of their newest album. And Vanessa, of course, cringes at the way Michael plays the guitar.
Listen, if I'm gonna bring up the receipts here, okay? The second this scene started, I literally, first thing I said to you when I started watching it was me watching the concert scene at the beginning and a bazillion skull faces. It was so cringe. I couldn't handle it. But also, it was just like, I feel like it was auto-tuned to hell.
Well, I mean, I don't think Michael is like a trained singer ever, so like...
Yeah,
so
you just do what... You do what every other show is. You just make them lip sync to someone who actually sings.
Well, but I don't think he's terrible enough that they were like, we have to like pay someone else to do this. So they're like, we'll just auto-tune it.
I guess.
But either way, it was going to sound that way because they wanted to seem crisp. So he sings the song, but as he's singing the song, he sees Skylar in the crowd. And he's like, she's not supposed to be here.
I thought it was hilarious when she was there and that random girl's like, how long have you been listening to this band? And she's like, 12. She's like, oh yeah, I've been listening to them for 14 years. And I was like,
she's
bro.
14.
I know. I was like, bro. But I was like, that's the cringiest thing. Yeah. I was born and I was already listening to them. I was like, I get it.
I'm in the womb. Vanessa,
I know.
okay?
I know, but I was just like, why would you say that? Like, you could be like, oh, I listened to them forever. Like, yeah. No, 14 years. And I'm like, no, that's just a weird way to say it. Do not.
I think you're nitpicking.
I am. I told you. I hated them. I didn't hate it, but I was just like, this ain't it, bro. I can't. So this is going to be the first time.
I think the better question would have been, how old are you? And why are you in this club?
That is true. But here, I think this is the first time we're going to have an episode where we're going to be against each other at every turn, probably.
Well, that might be a good thing for the podcast, just because then people can see the different opinions.
Oh, they're going to side with you 100%.
No, I mean, there's some people that don't like it. Like, I don't like that Derek's a rock star. I don't think that's realistic.
Mm-hmm.
I think if he was going to have a like famous job, it would have been something like a director. But yeah. I think they just needed I don't know. Because that seemed like more of what he was into in the show. Like, yes, he had D-Rock, but that never seemed like a passion. That just seemed like, this is something that's cool that will get me girls. So let's do this. It never seemed like, this is my passion.
I think Mike's just too, like, extravagant as a person that they're like, we cannot just give him a mundane job.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just think, like, Derek is that way, where it's like, he would fall into a job that he's just famous at, like, no matter what he did. So, I think, it makes sense in that regard to give him something that's not a 9-to-5, because I can't see Derek being able to sustain that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that Casey's a lawyer, because that's something that they definitely teased on the show.
They did. And then I went back and, like, I saw the gifs you were posting, and I was like, but she's reading a business book. But then I realized she's probably, like, majoring in, like, law, but you need to take, like, a different, like, a minor in something, don't you? No, wait, you have to get into lawyer school, you have to, like, already have, like,
You have to have a degree in something else before
Yeah,
you
so
can
she
be a
probably took
lawyer.
a degree in like
Usually it's in
business.
like politics or something like.
Yeah, like poli sci or whatever.
Yeah.
But she was like, I'm gonna go business, and I'm gonna start my own business. But actually, I'm a lawyer. I'm Topanga.
The only thing I don't like is that Casey apparently had kids like right out of college.
No, she probably was still in college and she was a delinquent.
Well, it was 18 years ago, so that would have been like basically right after she graduated from college. But that means she still had to go through law school
Hmm.
with a tiny kid. Whereas I
You can
feel
you
like in an
imagine?
ideal world, Casey would at least waited until she passed her bar exam.
Do you know how crazy she would have been? Where if she was like, I'm in the middle of a test, and then she went into labor, she's like, oh no, I need to finish this test. Can
Well,
you imagine?
that wasn't necessarily the case, but
Could you
at least that was
imagine
the
though?
it wouldn't have been her bar exam that happened because Luca was already bored at that point.
Oh my god, it would be even funnier if she's in the middle of a bar exam.
That
She
would be
goes
her
into
luck, though.
labor.
That would be her luck. Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. That's just that stuff kind of just like eh. But we've known that since the descriptions come out, so it's kind of just been like it is what it is with that stuff. Like they've gone this way, so it is what it is. We can't change it now. So anyway, after Derek's done performing his song, he then like immediately is like, everybody, I'm going to be right back. So then he runs after Skylar to try to get her, and like also when he finally does reach her, that woman from earlier who asked her about like how long have you been listening to this band, she's just like creepily like taking video. So I'm like, I'm not sure if she's supposed to be like a reporter or like I don't know, but she's taking video of this.
She's a creep. We all know it.
But and that of course ends up going viral.
Yep, that it does.
And then but we find that a little bit later. But then we go to Toronto and we're immediately seen with Luca's friend Gabriel, and he is filming, I guess something would be for TikTok.
I guess, like, you know how shows make up, like, their own version of
He didn't really
things?
specify anything, but like he's that's the thing for this generation. So it's TikTok
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
And he's filming Luca, who is on a bike and about to do some type of stunt.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, as he starts going down the ramp to perform this stunt, Casey comes like she's driving that minivan like a crazy woman. And she has
Casey.
her young kids in the back of the freaking
Yeah, she has her two kids in the back, and she's
kids
just,
in the
like,
back, and
barrels.
she's just like,
But,
like, what is it, dragging like the car basically
yeah, but,
into the parking lot.
bro, like, wasn't he in, like, some weird location, too? It, like, wasn't a skate park or anything. It was, like...
It looked like an abandoned buildings, like...
Yeah, how does she know where he is?
Well, maybe she knows he hangs out at that place, because it's...
No, you know Casey's that person who installed, like, a geotag location, like one of those
like,
tracking
on his
things.
phone so she can, like,
Yeah.
track them.
Yeah, you know she has one of those.
But I also think, like, it might just be a place she knows he frequents, because, like, it's abandoned, like, you know, you can, like, safely ride your bike in there for the most part.
I feel like any abandoned place is not a safe place.
Well,
I feel like if this is
in the magical world of film, yes.
Yes. I feel like if that's an abandoned, like, warehouse, you know, all, like, the kids are going there for parties. There's probably used needles there. There's used needles there. You know.
Crackheads are in the building behind.
Yes. It's not safe. He's gonna jump into this thing and land on a bunch of used needles.
Oh my god. So anyway, as he's going down the ramp, Casey goes out of a car, Luca! And of course he gets distracted. And he falls into this like thing of trash, which I guess that wasn't what he was gonna do anyway. I don't know what his original stunt was going to be,
I
But
don't know because it literally looked like he was just gonna jump into the pile.
yeah, that or just jump off the ramp and then onto the street. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't. It didn't look like he was going to like try to do like a flip or anything. So he ends up in the trash, and Casey goes berserk, and she's like, "Luca!" And then she's running to him,
In
and then
her amazing lawyer outfit from the
yes,
1400s.
and Lucas asks her why she's such a smother, which I thought was actually pretty funny, like a
That
smother
was pretty
mother.
clever. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was pretty clever.
And then she's like, I am not a smother. And he's just like, fine, a helicopter mom. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, she is. It's pretty accurate. But
yeah. She's all of the above.
he complains that, like, if you didn't, like, mess me up, I would have, landed my stunt. And she's like, well, if you didn't forget to pick up your brother and sister, I would have finished the opening argument that I had. So she had to run out in the middle of a freaking argument.
She was like in court.
Yeah. So she's
That's
like, this is not good, Luca. And of course, her whole
yeah,
rant
no.
is getting recorded by Luca's friend Gabriel. And then he was like,
Yeah.
cut. That was great, guys. Casey, maybe not yell so much. And I'm like, Gabe, read
Bro.
the freaking room.
Bro, she's like, I'm sue you for this footage. Like,
Oh
do
my god.
not.
And then, like, because she does say, because, like, obviously it was recorded, and she's like, don't you dare, like, don't you dare upload that. And of course, what does he do? He uploads it.
Oh my
So
god.
Casey and Derek became viral around the same time.
For two different things.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
So back in France, it looks like Derek's just coming home from his gig, and Skylar had made him his special breakfast. And then she shows him that his video has been trending, and it's called like Rockstar Dad Calls Security on his own kid or something like that.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
And he's like, well, I don't think my publicist is quite excited about doing damage control. And so Skylar's like, well, don't worry. Like, I took the fall for everything. And, like, she said her mom is too busy with her new, like, half-sister to, like, be mad at either of them. And then Derek's like, well, Derek thinks she snuck out of the house in the middle of the night on a scooter in Paris and that she could have gotten hurt.
It's true.
And so he was really, like, serious. And it's so weird to see Derek serious ever.
Yeah, it is. You know shit's real when he's mad.
Oh, yeah. Because, Derek, he's very laid back and mellow. So it's like the second he gets serious, he's like, he means business.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So, he said she could have been hurt. And she's like, well, I was hurt because you didn't tell me about your secret show. And it just kind of shows you how Derek is because, like, he was like, well, if I told you about the secret show, you would have wanted to go. And if you wanted to go, I would have let you. And, like, it was too late.
Yeah. I just love how she's like, you didn't tell me. I'm like, because it's probably 1 a.m. You should be asleep. No, it says it's 11:30, so you still should be in bed. You're 14.
Well,
but
yeah.
it made it seem like it was like 1 a.m. And I was like,
yeah. I mean, it wasn't as bad as he's perceiving, but like basically to little kids watching the show, oh, it's 11:30. It's 11:30. That's late. That's really late.
Go to bed. Go to bed. Yeah, go to bed.
I finished like writing the notes for this episode.
I know, and I was like, don't worry about it. I'm not going to show up. I have to go to the gym. And you're like, I'm here now. I'm doing it. I was like, oh, God.
So anyway, Derek then was like, we can't just move on from this like we normally do. Because like she was like, Dad, usually I say sorry and then we eat food. Like that's basically how the relationship goes. And he was like, well, we can't just move on from this. There needs to be consequences.
Consequence.
Yeah, and he sounds like he hates the word as it's coming out of his mouth.
Yeah, you know he does.
Basically, it comes down to him saying, well, your grandparents are throwing a housewarming anniversary party.
Yeah.
Yeah, the housewarm anniversary party for themselves. And he's like, and we're going to surprise them. So we're going to Canada. And of course, Skylar is up in arms because they were supposed to go to this thing in Barcelona and have all this fun. And he was like, no, we're going to a fam jam in Canada.
Yeah, listen, fam jams.
So he's like, our flight's leaving in 4 hours, get packing. And then she's like, this is so unfair. And she's like, you're overreacting as she goes up the stairs. And then, of course, Derek is like, you're going to pack for me too, right?
Dude, that whole thing, the whole gag of this throughout the whole movie of she like I feel like she cleans, she's like a slave. I feel like you're gonna pack for me, but you didn't cook for me. And I'm like, oh
well,
God.
I don't think for the packing, yes, it's like, can you pack for me? But I think otherwise, it's just that Derek obviously won't do these things himself unless absolutely necessary. So she's learned to accommodate, like, to basically do what he won't. So if he won't make breakfast, she's like, well, I'm hungry, I'm going to make breakfast. And then, like, I swear, Skylar, Derek is so lucky that she ended up as good as she did.
Yeah.
Because, oh my God.
She could have been a nightmare.
They'd both be dead if she wasn't.
She could absolutely be a nightmare.
Oh, she could be a nightmare. Like, he is so lucky that she ended up as good as she did. Because, Derek barely has any rules. And he relies so heavily on her. Like, she could have some major resentment issues for essentially being the parent in the relationship.
Oh, yeah. But here, like, quick question. Between Skylar and Luca, who do you like the most?
Probably Skylar.
Same. I think Luca's a little bitch.
Because Luca, like, and we'll get to it, he just was really dumb. Like, at certain
He's
things.
dumb.
Like, you can't do that, Luca. Like, even if you don't want to do this, you can't do that. Like, try to be a little bit smarter about it. Like, Skylar could be a little bit nosy. Not nosy.
And a little snobby.
A little snobby. But, like, I really don't think she was trying to be. It's just that, like, she's like, listen to all my cool things that I do. Because, like, that's basically what her life is. It's not, like, look what I did. It's more like, this is what I did.
Yeah, no, like, I didn't like him because I thought he was dumb. But also, I was just like, you're horrible.
In certain aspects, he wasn't as harsh as Derek. But then I felt like in some aspects, he was harsher than Derek.
I just thought he was, like, a horrible person for the fact that, like,
Kinda.
He straight up abandons his siblings constantly. He just goes, oh,
and we'll get to that. So, yeah, that's just... And that's something Derek would have not done.
Exactly. I'm like, you're horrible. But it's just like, it's already happened. He was supposed to go get his siblings who are, like, super at the age where someone could kidnap them.
And, like, I get, like, Derek probably might have forgotten about picking up his siblings, too. Like, that's, like, a whatever thing. But, like, in the movie, it gets worse of, like, how he abandoned them.
And I'm like, this is their prime age for stranger danger to happen.
Right.
Like, my God. Like, you're horrible.
Like, you're living in such a bubble, son, that you think nothing's going to happen to these kids.
But also, he also lives in a world where you could literally put on your phone a notification that says, go pick up your siblings so you don't forget.
Right.
So he is worse, 100%. And you're crazy if you don't think Casey has not put all these notifications on his phone that says, go do this, go pick up your brother and sister, go do this, and he's just like, no.
I would say this: Derek was harsher with his words than Luca.
Yeah.
But Luca's harsher with his actions.
Yeah.
So, and we'll get into more of those actions, which, yeah, it was really bad. At some point,
it was so bad.
I was rewatching it last night, and I was like, "Ooh, that wasn't. Yeah,
it wasn't good."
You know what? I think he's picking up on.
It wasn't good.
Psychopathic tendencies.
Yeah, he has no feelings. He straight up has no emotions. This kid is literally dead inside.
He has adapted and tried to fit in.
Yeah,
Luke
no,
she's like, hell no, I'm not going that way.
Would you say a psychopath, they have emotions, but a sociopath feels nothing. He's a sociopath. She's a psychopath. We got it. We figured it out. We cracked the code, which means he's trying to be a more fucked up serial killer than her. Because he's not going to give a shit.
But also,
holy shit.
I think I brought this up to you before too. And I'm like, Casey's husband's not around.
She murdered him.
And he's not spoken of.
She literally murdered him and is like, he's away in Europe playing hockey.
5 months has passed since where's Dad? Isn't he supposed to be home? Oh, wow.
No, he's playing hockey.
He's still playing hockey.
Oh my god.
We have a league and they play during the off season.
Oh my god. It's like baseball when you have like the winter leagues and shit. They're like, you didn't play well, go to winter leagues and get your shit back, and then come back to spring training. That's what she's gonna say he's doing. She's like, he's in Australia playing hockey. It's perfect. We figured it out. She's passed on the gene, but it's mutated to where the dude is literally a stone-faced killer. No emotion. We got it. We figured it out. We've cracked the code. We have intertwined our theory into this movie, and I am here for it. I like this movie much more now. It's more interesting.
So then we're back in Toronto with Casey, and she is before the judge apologizing for running out on the opening remarks. She explains what happened with her son, and the judge is like, oh, like the video helicopter mom spins out. And I thought that was a really good title.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently the opposing counsel, he tried to submit it into evidence. Though I don't know who she was representing, and I don't understand why that affects the case.
Maybe, I don't either, but I think, like, at some point, you're trying anything to get the case thrown out, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just like...
Maybe
like, obviously they don't care about this case, like, we need to throw this out so that we don't get, like, sued or something, or... I don't know.
Or it's like...
Or it's like, this is an incompetent lawyer, so you need to get someone else, and they're hoping it's someone, like, who's not as good as Casey.
Or it's like, the jury's now seen this.
So they can't take her seriously.
Like, exactly. So, whenever, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the word. I've literally just watched true crime all day, so I should know what it is, but, like, I'm thinking, all that's coming to my mind is malpractice.
Yeah, there could be other reasons for why submitting it into evidence, even though it's not relevant to the case.
Yeah, but I can only think malpractice. I'm like, no, she's not a doctor. Like, that's not the same. What is it? I don't know.
So Casey assures the judge, like, this doesn't normally happen, and it's just that her husband away, he plays hockey overseas, and then she's kind of goes off, saying that, like, you know, her husband promised to retire when the kids became teenagers, but the man won't stop scoring. So I guess he's a
what if that's why she killed him?
I know, that's what I was just about to say. I was like, you know, Luca turned 13. She was like, hey, Pete, are you going to retire now? And he's just like,
no.
Well, I'm still, like, so good, so probably not. And then she was like, oh, well, if you're not going to retire and be here, I might as well kill you.
But, like, if you're so good, why are you in Europe and not in the NHL?
He's really good for that league. And apparently he has asked Casey and the kids to go with him, but I feel like that's not fair for Casey anyway, because she's a lawyer in Canada. Yeah. She has
doesn't mean she can practice.
It's not like she could just take off for 5 months or do this work remotely. Like, she's a lawyer. You usually have to be in the courtroom. And it's not like she can practice over in Europe, because that doesn't
you
work.
need, like, you're just for Canada. You can't be like, I'm in Sweden.
And so then, like, for half the year, you're going to take your kids out of school or potentially homeschool. It's just too much. Like, that's just a big ask. And, like, I could see how Casey could be annoyed about that. Enough to kill.
Let's say, like, that was good. I love how your voice just went.
But then she's just like, and usually she has it all handled, but Luca has been acting out a lot recently. And so he's intent on acting out instead of helping out. So the judge, fortunately, she relates. She has a teenager of her own, and she says, but she really let the client down, so she has to get her act together by Monday when they resume, the case. So that means Casey has a lot of work to do over the weekend. Which is also, I was expecting this to happen over the course of like maybe a week when I read the synopsis.
Yeah, no, this is like a day.
Thinking like it was like the summer or something, but it seems like it's just this random weekend within the year, and like it all happens in like 1 weekend. So then we see Derek and Skylar are now in the car, and they're on their way to George and Nora's home. Skylar, like, she can't believe her punishment is going to see her family. And Derek said that, like, it'll be good. She'll get to see her cousins, and that her and Luca had so much fun last time. But apparently that's not what Skylar thinks, because apparently they've only met twice, too, which is interesting. But Skylar said when they were 8, he put green slime in her hair. And then when he was 10, he put 20 whoopee cushions under her mattress. Which, the whoopee cushion thing isn't that bad.
It's harmless whoopee cushions.
Oh, yeah.
It's in her bed. Who's going to be there to see the whoopee cushions go off? Like,
yeah.
That's nothing.
The green slime, I understand, because, like, that could probably get your whole hair messed up and, but Derek is trying really hard to not be amused by these pranks that she's listing.
Yeah.
Because Derek has done that and worse towards all his siblings.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Derek's like, well, you know what? Luca's older. But, like, did that ever stop Derek throughout the series?
No. Girls mature faster than boys. That's just an excuse. And I'm like, you say it, girl. You say it.
Yeah, that happens later in the movie, but it still pertains.
I thought this was this scene.
No, it happens later in the movie.
Oh, right. See, I'm telling you, it's just a blur for me. Like, I'm going to be like, that happened? And I'll be like, no, this happened here.
So, as they get to the new house, they soon realize that no one is home. And apparently, Derek never turned his phone off of airplane mode when they got off the plane, because George had texted Derek saying that no one was really, committing to the party, so they decided to cancel it. And now they're on their way to, like, New Jersey for this other party for one of Nora's relatives.
Yes, like her uncle or something.
Derek's like, oh, well, like, I guess we could just go to Toronto, which, that's where Casey lives. I wonder if that's Let's go to Toronto and see Casey anyway. But Sky just wants to go home. So then they leave, and I think they actually pass Casey on the road. So they're in the car going to the house. And Molly and Kai are fighting in the back, and Luke is in the front putting on his heavy metal music. And I loved this little scene because, like, Casey is, like, rocking out to the metal.
Yeah, she's like, it's for my metal.
And she's like, they played a song in my heavy metal spin class.
To which I'm like, I don't disagree that she went to spin class, but the fact that she's like, I take heavy metal spin class, I'm like, that's hardcore. That's hilarious.
I think it was an accident. Like, it wasn't said it was a heavy metal spin class, but it was just like hardcore spin class, and she was like, yeah, I can do hardcore. And then she goes to the spin class and it's this music, and she's like, all right, whatever, like, I'll just go with it. And then, like,
yeah, but also at the same time I'm like, that's the softest heavy metal I've ever heard. This is rock. This is rock.
Where's the little kitties, Vanessa?
I know, but I was just like, that's rock. That's not heavy metal. Or as my mother would say, head-banging music.
So Lucas said he was supposed to do something with Gabe, but Casey says too bad. His grandparents were bummed that no one could go to their party, So the three of them were going to cheer up their grandparents. And then Luca
Mm-hmm.
asked, like, "Oh, you're not staying? You're just gonna dump us?" And she's like, "Well, she has too much work, so she needs to catch up on that." But just like Derek, they soon find out that Nora and George aren't there,
Mm-hmm.
and they're about to leave when Derek's car comes down the driveway. And apparently, Derek had to come back to pee.
No, that was Skylar. You got it wrong?
Yeah. But he blames it on Skylar, but like Skylar's like, that was you. Which I don't understand anyway, because no one's home. So how would you do that?
But
Are you just gonna pee in their bushes because it's not as bad?
well, there was the hidden key. I mean, yeah, because didn't he say he gets he said he gets performance anxiety, he said? Like he can't pee out in the woods or something,
Yeah.
he was saying? He's like,
So
I
we
get
had to go
performance
somewhere a little bit
anxiety.
more familiar and be like, at least I can pee in the wilderness here.
Here, exactly. But then he like backtracks and he's like, where's the spare key, guys? Where's that? So I don't have to pee in the woods here.
But I thought this little interaction with Daisy seeing each other was really cute. Weird because they like look like they actually liked seeing each other, but it's just like she's like, is that Derek Venturi, the rock star?
Oh, I know.
And she's like, did your tour bus take a wrong turn? Like, you know. And Derek actually looks like he's going to initiate a hug. He's like, you know, hugs first, guilt trip later. But then her two little kids, Kai and Molly, run to him in a hug, like, you know, basically cock blocking him.
Ruined it. They ruined everything.
Like, I love these little kids. They're so damn cute. But in that moment, I was side-eyeing them for real. Like, really? Really?
They ruined it all. Rude.
But yeah, it's so surreal that they actually looked happy to see each other. But they were still bantering. So it still seemed like them. Everyone goes into the house, admiring how nice it looks. Though I do really miss the house from Life with Derek. Like, I was so, like, when they first announced the movie, I was like, oh, like, it'd be so nice to see the original house, because, like, that's just, you know. But apparently, Nora and George blew all of their money to build this new house for themselves.
No, they renovated everything with their money. Like, they bought it, and then they just renovated everything and used all their savings. And I'm like, that doesn't seem smart.
No, I don't understand why they did that. I mean, I understand maybe wanting to buy another house. Like, you know,
like
we don't need this
summer
house
house
anymore, so they downgrade, but they upgraded big time.
Yeah, I literally thought, like, it's a plantation house in my eyes.
It did look like it had, like, a really big plot of land.
Yeah, I was like, are we down in the south?
And then the one neighbor talks about a greenhouse. Like, what the hell are these people doing?
I'm telling you.
Like, that's not necessary, George and Nora.
No, it's not. You don't have kids anymore. You don't need that house.
Unless they got the greenhouse especially so that they could, like, grow special plants and
grow the devil's lettuce. That's
the retirement scheme. That's the retirement scheme.
Yeah, everyone thinks
they live next to a cop, so I don't know how.
He is in on it.
Oh,
he's
God sakes.
In on it. They, like, cut him in, and they're like, we'll never get caught because I'm in on this. Oh my God, this family is full of criminals and killers.
So anyway, the teens are immediately on the couch on their phones, but Casey, you know, insists that they put the phones down and spend time with family. She then asks Luca to show Skylar around the property, which he doesn't want to do, but reluctantly does. And, like, he's just pointing out the most obvious things, like, this is the kitchen where the food was made.
I fucking hate him.
And then he tells her, like, oh, this is the back door. And I swore he was going to open up the door
and push her out,
put her through it, and then shut it.
Yeah, that would have been good. That would have been so much better.
I was like, I could see Derek doing that to Casey.
Oh, it's so bad. It should have been so good.
I was like, okay. So in that regard, he isn't as harsh. Because, like, I was expecting him to do worse in that scenario.
Yeah.
But it was still funny. And then, so Casey is like, okay, well, you know, she's telling everyone the sleeping arrangements of what they can, you know, where they can sleep. And she's like, oh, you know, I think Skylar and Molly can like share a room, and Luca can be in the office, and Derek, you can be with Kai, and I can have George and Nora's room. And Derek's like, you? And she's like, yeah, I have a lot of work to do. And he's like, I just traveled from Paris. I am jet lagged. And then within that minute, basically, they've turned back into their 15-year-old selves.
And racing to the
And
room,
they
yeah.
race to the top just to claim the room. And it's just like, that's exactly why I love this movie, because like it didn't feel like any time passed with them. Like they were obviously older and matured slightly, but basically they were still them.
No, like, I liked them. That was fine. It's everything else. I was like, kill me. And that's why I was like, maybe it would have been different if they had added in, like, see, I would have loved to see Lizzie come back from her cult that she was probably in. I would have loved to see that. Would love to see that. And that's what I was here for. And it didn't happen.
But Molly then turns to Kai and she's like, Uncle Derek is very immature. And Kai's like, he knows and he loves it.
Yeah.
And so do I. So
Yes.
because basically Casey, she acts like this prim and proper, like super mom, but then with Derek, like she's still all of a sudden like a teenager again, and I kind of love that for her because I feel like she needs to let loose a hell of a lot more, and Derek helps her do
Yeah, it is true.
We then get a glimpse of George and Nora on their way to the party they travel to attend in New Jersey. George doesn't want to go, but he asks if they can leave before anyone can see them. But of course, at that moment, someone does. And it's like a cousin of Nora's, and she's like, oh, you're still with George. And I feel like no one in Nora's family likes George whatsoever.
I know. That's what I was going to say. I'm like, they all hate him for some reason.
I feel like they think she downgraded from like Dennis.
Yeah.
Like he's this hotshot lawyer. And it's like, you're basically with this guy who barely like can afford.
But he's also a lawyer.
But he's not as an
But I guess we've had this discussion of like, Dennis seems like a corporate lawyer, so he makes bazillions of dollars, and then like George is like, I have a lawyer's office in the mall. That's what I feel like.
Yeah, so
that's what I feel like. You
like she downgraded.
Mm-hmm.
And then like no one ever really gave him a chance. But she's basically just like, you know, it's like, oh, and like since you RSVP'd like yesterday, I had to put George at the kiddies table.
Listen, the kids table is way better anyway, so that's an honor.
It probably would be. And
it's an honor.
Obviously he wouldn't want to be with her relatives anyway, because they'd just be constantly like poking jabs at him. Because she was like, yeah. I think the last time I saw George, he was wearing that exact jacket.
Yeah. Did you, side note, 'cause he's at the kiddie table, were you like at any like Christmas or family things, did you guys have a kiddie table growing up?
Yes.
Like when the cousins were there and everything. Yeah, okay. I had the same
like
thing.
Thanksgiving and like Christmas.
Yeah, so mine was just
like
Christmas.
Me, my siblings and my cousins at the one table, and then like all the grown-ups at the like bigger dining room table.
So like we had like me, my sister, and our cousins. Like the older cousins were at the adult table because they were like in their late teens, early 20s.
Even then, when we got that old, we were still at the kids' table because we didn't want to bother with like the adults.
Yeah, here's the thing. I got upgraded to the adult table, and then you immediately like, yes, this is my time. I'm out of the kiddie table, and then you get there, and then you don't know what's happening, these discussions, and you're like, I wish I was back at the kiddie table. Where everyone's having fun, and you're just there going, I don't know what to say.
The kiddies table is like all these like stupid funny jokes of like little kid stuff, and then it's like when you get to the adult table, they're either talking about politics or like some family scandal you weren't aware of.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Then we are shown Luca and Skylar, and he's still showing her around the property. And Gabe calls, and Luca's like, hey, like I can't, you know, I'm not leaving my grandparents because my cousin and, you know, my uncle showed up. And Gabe's like, oh, the one from Paris. She's like, can I say hi? And then he's kind of like flirts with her, and like Luca ends the call real quick. And I feel like if it wasn't obvious that this felt like a trial run for a potential spin-off show,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like adding Gabe was a good, like, because, like, what's the point of Gabe?
I don't know. He's just
If
there.
not to kind of introduce him and, like, to show, like, hey, he's Luca's best friend, but look, he could potentially be this love interest for Skylar. Another Derek, Sam, Casey scenario that could potentially unfold.
Oh my god! I the whole time I was just like, oh, these two. The whole time, the Skaluka vibes were there. I'm just saying. I didn't
I
like it.
didn't think that there was anything there between the Skaluka. Like, I didn't see any, like,
It was a moment where I was just like, the way they acted around each other. I forget what
the
scene
one
it
moment that
was.
stands out in my mind was when they were first seeing each other, and Derek was like, "Oh, Skylar's been really interested. Like, she's been really wanting to, like, hang out with you, Luca." And she's like, "Dad."
And they're both like,
And then, like, he was like, "Hey," like, that I could see, but otherwise, I didn't get any vibes from them. When Daisy's 100, they were at, like, 25 for me.
yeah, no. It was like there was like a moment or two, and that was like probably the main one. But it kind of just how they reacted to that. It was kind of like, oh, hey. But yeah, just point that out.
And then in the house, Casey is looking in the fridge and she's like, I could make salad with tuna for dinner. And Derek's like, nah, let me take care of it. I'm living in France. We learn by osmosis. And she's like, you've learned what osmosis is?
No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't.
Derek then asks her.
He's like, I'm going to use a big word. He's like, I'm going to use a big word.
I mean, it's not that big of a word, but it's a complicated word.
It's not a big word, but he doesn't know what it means. Anything that finishes in is, he's like, that's too big.
He's just heard people like say it like that, so he's just like,
yeah.
I guess that's how you say that phrase.
Hey man, I tried to have osmosis growing up. I put my like fucking textbook under my pillow and went to sleep and prayed osmosis would happen. Did not happen.
So Derek then asks if everything has been good with her and the family, and she's like, oh yeah, absolutely. But you know, it's obviously challenging without her husband, since he does most of the cooking and the laundry and all the other stuff, but they're doing great, which, you know, totally sounds convincing coming from Casey. Not
Casey. Casey. What I don't understand is like there was like a joke about Casey's cooking at some point.
Well, and I know there was a couple instances in the show, at least once, where, especially with the dad, where she just screwed everything up.
Yeah, but no, like in this, they were like, "Oh, that's like Casey's cooking," and it was like burnt or it was the fries.
Yeah, and a little bit later,
it was the fries. Yeah,
the fries,
and I was like, "Isn't she supposed to be really good at cooking?"
I don't know if they've ever really said whether she was really bad or not, but I feel like she doesn't have time to cook, so I think she ends up rushing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you rush things, sometimes you end up like overcooking it. Like you just do something wrong because you're rushing through it. So I feel like that might be why.
Wasn't there like an episode where she cooked?
When her dad came to, like, she did that whole dinner and she screwed it all up.
But no. It wasn't that. It was like they were eating it and they're like, "Wow, this is really good," and they thought it was like Nora who did it, and she was like, "Thanks, it was me."
Oh, that was like one of the first season. He was like, casserole Casey.
Yeah, like she's supposed to be good, but then he's like, "Oh, that's burnt. It's Casey's cooking." And I was like, "How dare you?"
Well, I think he might be just referring to like when she burnt dinner like that one time.
Maybe.
Like that's something Derek would totally do, is just like rib on her for something that happened like 20 years ago. And then Casey then asks Derek how he's been doing, and he says him and Skylar will be going on tour when he gets back. And Casey expresses that she's impressed that he's been, you know, how he's been with Skylar since she was a baby. And, you know, he says like, oh, well, she's a work in progress. And Casey says Luca is a work in progress. And Derek brings up the helicopter mom spins out video. And he says that Marty, Edwin, and Lizzie, and even his dad sent it to him. So I'm glad they at least had a shout out.
Lizzie can't send it because there's no electronics allowed in the convent. She's not allowed. Her cult does not allow it.
Uh-huh. But I would have really liked to have at least.
And that's why it's unbelievable to me.
I would have at least liked to hear like why they weren't going to the party. like, oh, Edwin's at a convention, or like something like that, like, so that's like, oh, just like no one's able to come to the party this weekend.
He's working on Wall Street.
Oh yeah, something like that. He's not even in the country.
Lizzie's too busy in her cult, so she can't get there. But what is Marty doing?
Exactly, because she should be out of university now, and so, you know. But I mean, but again, like, I wasn't completely torn over them not being in the movie. It would have been nice if they did, but like, I wasn't, like, I was just like, whatever. If they have a show, I could definitely see them guest starring on a handful of episodes. So hopefully it gets to that point, and we can see what they're up to. With Luca and Skylar now, he's now showing her the barn area. And it's basically just filled with shit because the family is a bunch of hoarders.
Yeah. I don't know why you keep all that shit. Like, who cares? It's over. They're out of school. Get rid of it.
I mean, I still keep a lot of stuff from, like, high school.
I still do, too.
I'm just like, for some reason, I have this irrational feeling of, like, I'm gonna need this for some reason.
See, I have it because my mom has, like, a memory box of things from, like, every grade. But, like, the fact that it's like, here's every single fucking box of your awards and your high school essays. Yeah. I get awards. You can keep awards. But, like, high school essays, get rid of them. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, there was, like, numerous boxes of Casey's, you know, and of course Casey's boxes all have, like, a list of, like, everything that's, like, all the contents within the boxes. And, like, she has boxes just of essays. And I'm just like, I totally understand that Casey would have something like this. But it's also, it's like, why? Why are you holding on to these essays? Like, I don't think I would have held on to essays, but... And then, you know, Skylar's like, what about my dad? And he's like, oh, here's this just box. And it's just like a random box and it has Derek kind of just like lazily written on it.
Of detention slips. Disgusting. Hate it. You don't need to keep detention slips. Get rid of it.
He's proud of them, Vanessa.
Okay.
But Skylar was like, oh, like, you know, here's, like, I guess, like, trophies of his and, like, detention slips. And Luca was like, ooh, like, I could, like, sell these. Like, I'm sure I'd get, like, a pretty penny for them. And they kind of work out this, like, negotiating thing. Like, whereas, like, you know, Luca's like, well, I can give you a split of it. And, like, Skylar's like, okay. And she's like, you 20, me 80. And, like, just the exchange felt very Lizzie Edwin to me. Like, I could totally see them having a conversation like this.
Probably.
Because they did a lot of that business kind of venture stuff. And
they did, but I don't think they really did, like, you get 20%, I get whatever.
No, not in that regard, but just, like, the business transaction of it.
Yeah, I guess.
But I feel like Lizzie would ask for a bigger portion.
Yeah.
Even if it was, like, 60,
but also,
40, like...
Yeah, Luca's dumb, so he'd probably be like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I'll take the 20%. Yeah. But also, she should get more. It's her dad's stuff.
Well, that's true, too. It's just like, if anyone does get the bigger split of it, it should be her because she's allowing Luca to sell it.
Yeah, exactly.
We then move to back into the house, and Derek's putting the food on the table, and it's simply mac and cheese with hot dogs. So that's the big thing that he cooked.
Listen, that shit's delicious.
Oh, yeah, but, like, he makes it seem like he's going to, like, make this huge French meal, and, like, it's going to be elaborate.
True.
He's like, and then mac and cheese with hot dogs.
Here's the thing, because he said it all in French, and as it always happens in these shows, they're like, this person can speak French. I can never understand a thing they say, so I'm like, thank God you put subtitles on, because I can't understand you. Because your accent is just, you can't pronounce things properly. So I was just like, what are you saying? So every time Skylar went into her rants in French, I was like, huh? I was like, what are you saying?
As anyone who doesn't speak a lick of French, she sounded great to me.
Yeah, no, I was just like, what did you just say? I maybe caught like one word and I was like, excuse me? I mean, you tried and that's all that matters, but I hate when they do that in shows and movies. Hate it. And that's my rant about being French.
So Casey then asks Skylar if she cooks too, because obviously she doesn't believe Derek actually can cook. And Skylar says a little, but then she starts going off on all the places she's gone and what she eats there and
Again, I don't know what you're saying. Don't know what you're saying. I can't. I need a subtitle.
And then Molly then asked her, like, oh, who's your best friend in Paris? And like Skylar's like, well, they're in the band. And of course, and then Derek's like, oh, you're my best friend too. And then she's like, no, it's Hugo.
Yeah. Fuck you.
And apparently Hugo can speak 6 languages and he's helping Skylar learn like a couple of them. And, you know, Miley and then Kai and then start asking Skylar all this stuff. Like, do you have a bedtime? And she's like, no. And it's like, how much dessert can you eat? And she's like, whatever I want. You know, they ask her if she has school and she's like, no, I'm tutored by the roadie. And then like he's like, does Uncle Derek make you clean your room? And she's like, no, I tell him to do it. And then, like to clean his own room.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, can you swear? And she's like, well, if I wanted to. And it's like, I could see Derek exactly laying this out for his child. Like, and again, I have to stress, he is so damn lucky that she's as good as she is.
Yeah.
I saw someone comment that they were like, Derek's flipping out over his daughter coming to his show, but like, she was literally just wanting to listen to him and she had like a soda. She was drinking like a soda. It's like, it could have been a lot worse there.
Yeah, it could have.
And of course, like after Skylar, you know, answered all these questions, the little kids are like looking at their mother in horror. And she was like, there are all kinds of parents. Which, I mean, true, but like, it's like.
They're like, he's cool. You're not.
Casey then says that after dinner, they should all play a game of charades. So, of course, Luca immediately objects to the game. But the next shot is everyone besides Luca trying to guess what Skylar is acting out. And the fact that Derek is playing along, I think definitely shows that he's matured.
Yeah.
Because he's willing to go along with this shit that Casey's doing. And when they end the game, Molly takes Skylar's hand and she starts asking her all these kind of questions. But then she says, like, I wish we were cousins and sisters. I mean, I think we should give Molly what she wants. Give Molly what she wants, damn it. She deserves it.
Yeah.
And then in the next scene, Derek is in the room with Kai, which has bunk beds. So we can assume now that Casey won the room, which I'm very curious about because Derek was up the stairs first.
Yeah.
So as he's in there, he calls George and he's asking, like, oh, do you have extra toothbrush, toothpaste, bedrooms? And then he asks,
does he not bring this shit with him?
He didn't pack. Skylar didn't pack it for him. Could you imagine? He literally left the apartment with nothing.
Horrible. Oh my God.
Well, because he did pack himself, he forgot everything because Skylar usually makes sure he packs like the essentials. So like maybe he packed a few shirts and pants, but like other than that, he's like, yeah, I got everything I need. And then he just didn't like remember anything else.
I hate it.
And then he asks George if him and Nora really aren't coming back home. And he then tells them, well, because Casey was planning on surprising them with the party. And you can hear George get really excited, and he tells Nora about it, saying they have to get back. And so then as Derek hangs up, Kai celebrates. He's like, you did it! And then Casey, like, she just comes out of the blue. It seems like that room's connected to her room somehow.
Or it's like right beside it, right. Or right, like, yeah.
And she like comes out of the blue and she was like, what did Derek do? And Kai explains that his grandparents are coming back because she's throwing them a party. And she's like, what? I can't do that. I have work to do, Derek. And then Derek's like, don't hyperventilate.
Yeah.
I'll do it. And then Casey's like, you will? Really? Promise? And then I just love the obvious doubt she has about it for
Oh yeah,
Derek's
100%.
like, I'm a grown-up now. And she's just like,
No.
Everyone is in bed, and all of a sudden, you see this light on outside go on, and then everyone hears something happening downstairs. So Skylar goes into Derek's room, and he hits his head on the top of the bunk. And I really like, because he was like, he wakes up, he hits his head, she's like, Shippa!
Yeah, I like how they make up the weirdest swears.
Yeah.
I just love it.
And then Casey comes running in Casey comes in not long after, which, again, is she literally attached to this room despite not living, like, not staying in it?
Yeah.
And they all go downstairs to find Simon, the little baby brother George and Nora had at the end of the series.
Yeah.
It was really bizarre to actually, like, be able to put a face to a character.
Yeah.
That, like, was basically shoved in at the end of the series.
It's true.
He has a very chaotic energy about him that is very obviously Venturi driven. And then he has a few, I feel like, you know, a little McDonald in him, but I think he's mainly Venturi based.
See, I just like that the fact that, like, even without, like, yes, the name's given out, but, like, even before they're like, oh my god, it's Simon, I was like, oh, it's Simon. Like, I immediately knew. I was like, oh, it's Simon. Just not some random dude in their house making fries and burgers, you know? I was like, oh, it's Simon.
So then Simon's like, oh, you know, Skylar, since, you know, I haven't seen you since you were yay high. You know, he says, like, oh, don't call him Uncle Simon because, like, they're so close in age. And Casey goes, oh, Mom and George's happy accident. And he's like, don't be gross, Casey. And I'm like, yes, Casey, stop being gross.
Yes, Casey's not allowed to be
Nora and
gross.
George were getting groovy in the basement bedroom.
Yeah. We don't want it.
And Skylar's like, well, shouldn't you be at university? And then, long story short, Simon is close to flunking one of his classes unless he gets an A on an essay that he recently got an extension for. So, of course, he only has the weekend to write this essay. Similar to Casey, he has something to do within this limited amount of time.
Indeed.
You know, so he's saying, like, yeah, I gotta write this essay. And then Luca points out that his mom has a bunch of essays in the garage. And Simon's like, oh, really? And Casey's, like, outraged. And he's like, oh, I'm just kidding, Casey. You know, like, I'm not.
But here's the thing. You can't, like, why would you even think of submitting a high school paper for a university paper? They're like...
But also, don't you think Casey went over the top for, like, all of her high school papers?
I guess, but, like...
The limit was, like, just write a 2-page paper about the theme of this story, and then she writes, like, a 10-page paper of, like, you know, because she just goes over the top.
I guess, but I was like, there's no way they'd accept that. They'd be like, first of all, this subject matter is not what the essay's about.
Unless it's very open. Some university classes are very open with what you can write about. So as long as it's somewhat on topic.
I guess, but I just think the visualization or the imagery of, like, being like, yep, this is on whatever course he's taking, like anthropology, he said, or something, right? And it's like, this is about this, and you submitted a paper about Spanish.
I don't think it's that.
But can you imagine, though? Like, just straight up being like, this is this. You
gave the first one he saw.
Yeah. And that's hilarious imagery to me.
So anyway, Simon then remembers he has fries in the oven, and he scurries over to take them out, but they're burnt. And then Derek makes a quip of, like, oh, that's how Casey cooks.
Yeah, again, and I'm just like, but she made a good casserole, bitch.
She's good at casseroles, and that's all she's good at.
That's all she's good for. Yeah. If it's not a casserole, she makes everything into a casserole.
Right. She doesn't know how to make anything that's not a casserole.
Exactly. She's like, this is casserole.
So the next morning, Skylar is in the kitchen. She made herself a crepe, or crepe, how you say it?
Crepe. A crap. A crap!
And
she made herself a crap.
she's just like, oh, finally some alone time. So she puts her plate on the table and she goes to get something else, but when she turns back, Kai is there and he's eating her food.
As you do.
So she's like, okay. Then she goes to make herself another one, and Miley, my God. Molly peeks over the counter asking her, like, oh, what are you making? And Skylar then asks if she wants one, and Miley's like, of course, I'll get the maple syrup. So then Miley...
Yeah, baby.
I keep saying Miley.
Are you thinking of Miley Cyrus? Stop it.
Miley then... Oh my God.
It's not Miley Cyrus.
No. Molly then tells Kai to not eat the syrup when she puts it down next to him. Derek then comes in and asking, oh, if he can have one. Skylar then just is like, oh, does anyone else want one? And then Casey comes in and is like, ooh, Luca, Skylar is making crepes for everyone. And that's exactly how a family is. It's like you're trying to make something for yourself, and then it just keeps building up and up and up because everyone wants something, and you're just like, I just wanted to make one egg.
Yeah, that's how it goes. In this house, we all get eggs.
Exactly. That's why I hate making breakfast whenever I'm with my parents, because it's like, then you feel obligated to make everyone else breakfast, and it's just like, I don't feel like it.
That's why you wait until someone else starts cooking, and then you go, oh, you want to make me one? That's the hack. You don't cook. You wait.
It's then revealed that Kai did not listen, and suddenly the boy is the Flash, and he's buzzing around the whole room. But I love the fact that Casey isn't even fazed that he's running around like a lunatic. She's just like, yeah, I have something fun planned for all the cousins. And it's orienteering.
I have no idea what she was saying, but I was like, okay, go off.
I learned a new term because I've never heard of this damn thing. Orienteering, which is like a navigation adventure thing. It's actually a thing. Like, I looked it up. I'm getting flashback from that one episode where Casey tries to get the kids to do educational things when she was babysitting. Like, she has all these things planned out and everything. So, essentially, it gets agreed upon that Simon is going to drop off the kids on his way to the library and pick them up afterwards. And then I also found this funny because, like, Simon was sleeping on the couch. So, like, he has, like, serious bedhead. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, what am I supposed to do for breakfast then? Because he has to take the kids somewhere. And Casey just throws him a banana, which he completely does not catch. And then when it falls to the ground, he's like, I can't eat that now. It's like, well, yes, you can. The skin's still on it.
Fucking peel the banana. It wasn't a fucking peeled banana she threw at you.
He's like, I can't eat that now.
It's crazy.
Or is he so OCD that, like, he even can't eat stuff like that? Like, that's his McDonald trait. That, like...
Yeah. Doubt.
So then we go back to George and Nora, and they're trying to get their way back to their house, and they're at a rent-a-car place since it was too much money to get a last-minute flight back home. So then George, of course, negotiates for basically the cheapest car on the lot.
Hell yeah.
We then see all the cousins at this conservation park where they're given compasses and they're asked to do a navigation challenge. So basically, using the compasses, they have to find these, like, certain checkpoints. And it's kind of like a game. And then you say it's like the mind sport or something along the lines of I don't know. The woman who was going over the instruction was very enthused about it. Because then,
we've reached.
Because then Skylar was like, I'm from France. And she was like, oh, the same place from, like, this, like, apparently, like, famous orienteer or whatever.
Oh, God. Remember when I said there's going to be scenes I don't remember because I blacked out because I was like, I hate it? This is one of them.
This is very quick scenes, though. So
I didn't care about anything that it was just the kids. I was just like, I'm outie.
Well, definitely when I was rewatching it yesterday, I was like, I could skip over this. But obviously, I'm watching it for Derek and Casey.
Yeah, but I was just like, I literally was like, skip.
Like, the first time I was watching it, I was like, oh, I'm getting to know these characters, so it's fine. But in rewatches, I'm just kind of like, okay, let me just get back to Derek and Casey. And then we see Simon with his backpack walking down the street to where we assume he's going to the library. But he passes by this vegan shop with a waitress he obviously has interest in. So instead of going to the library, he goes into the shop to order something. And then we're back to George and Nora. They are now driving, and there is a news message playing on the radio saying to beware of someone in a red sedan.
See, this is a part I must have blacked out on because I was so confused about the whole sequence with this.
So the driver of this red sedan that they're looking out for is a robber of heirloom jewels.
Yeah.
So they were a jewelry robber. They're looking for them.
Yeah.
But Nora just changes the station and she comments I can't believe they have us rent a car with 300,000 miles on it and it has a screwdriver to turn on the ignition.
Yeah.
And George,
because
I love cars with character.
See, as I said, I blacked out, but I remember the discussion about the car, and I was like, obviously this car was stolen. That's all.
They picked the wrong car.
But in my mind, I thought it was the guy was like, oh yeah, cheap car, and he was getting rid of a car that was stolen. That was what my mind went to. Because I was like, I didn't realize that they just took the wrong car. I was literally like,
well, yeah, because the guy in the rental place was like, well, it hasn't been cleaned. It's it's not the greatest car, but I can give you a deal. And he said the one on the end.
And there's two cars on the end.
Two cars on the end that were pieces of shit. So they picked obviously the wrong car.
Yeah. But in my mind, I was just like, oh, this dude's got a hot car that he has to get rid of because the cops want it. So I was like, that was my whole mindset.
But back at the rent-a-car place, a sketchy guy comes in asking where that car is that George and Nora took. And the guy's like, oh no, they took the wrong car. Which, you didn't realize this beforehand?
No.
And so, the sketchy guy, the thief, he ends up renting a car himself, and he steals the information of George and Nora so he can start tracking them down. Back at the house, Derek is talking on the phone, and he's basically trying to get all the food together for the party and everything. And he's like, yeah, let's just deep fry everything except the pie. Oh, wait, no, let's deep fry that too. And he's like, you know what would even be great for a housewarming anniversary? A mechanical bull. And Casey tells him that if he's going to fake a phone call to get her to do all the party planning, he's going to need a better script. Derek denies it, but does say if she wants to help. But Casey immediately says no, so she gets up to go upstairs to go to work in peace. She then tells him to not forget the invitation or decorations, and no naps. Back with the kids, they reached a certain checkpoint, and Skylar says they should wait for the boys. And then Molly reveals that Luca bailed about 2 minutes into the thing, and she was like, and she's surprised he lasted that long. So then Skylar obviously asks, well, then where is Kai? And Molly shrugs, saying, he could be anywhere. He's a runner. And then in my mind, I'm like, okay.
Horrible brother. Horrible. This is why I fucking hate him.
Both Luca and Molly are way too calm about this.
Right.
I'm like, okay, you're just going to leave your brother fend for himself. Because obviously, Skylar and Molly are farther ahead. And he's just like, I'm bailing. Bye. He doesn't even tell anyone that. He just goes. And knowing that his brother is a runner, he just leaves him to be to his own devices. And so, of course, Skylar is like...
I can't get over how the dude straight up just like, okay, bye, I'm abandoning you.
It's just do you not love your brother at all? Do you not care about... Well, I mean, obviously...
Dude's a sociopath. Yeah,
he does it.
He loves no one.
But if you're at least trying to pretend you're not one, geez, you would at least, be like, hey, I'm not into this. I'm not doing this. Watch Kai, I'm bailing. Because most likely, they would have bailed with him.
Yeah, but it's just horrible.
Right. So then we go back with Casey. She's lying in bed working, but she keeps looking longingly towards the bathtub in the next room. She tries to fight, but eventually she caves. But before going into the tub, she checks downstairs on Derek to see what he's doing, and of course he's napping. Which
I too would be napping.
But she's just like, Derek. But I guess after that, she was like, I definitely need that bath now.
Yeah.
So, and then we're back with the kids, and by this time they have found Kai. Skylar is calling Luca, who is coming out of a fudge shop. So he's just having a dandy old time by himself.
Because now we have learned that sociopaths confirm love chocolate.
Skylar asks him what his problem is and how he could be so immature, in French, by the way.
I couldn't tell. I could not understand a word she was saying.
Well, neither could Luca, so...
Neither could the rest of the audience.
So Luca merely asked her to yell at him in German now, that she should be thanking him since he found a way better activity and that he'll text her the address. Why couldn't you just come, talk and be like, hey, do you really want to do this? I don't really want to do this. It's like, let's try to find something better in town since it's obviously so close by.
Dude's a bitch.
So the new activity ends up being go-kart, which immediately goes to shit. Because Kai eats the fudge, so again, he's on this sugar high, and he immediately, goes off track.
But also, don't you have to, sign a waiver, and neither of them are old enough to sign waivers for these kids or themselves?
But it looked like a pretty, shitty go-kart place. It looked like you could barely, go in a circle. It was so small.
Let me see. I want to see. Do you need to sign a waiver for go-karting? Because this is important to know.
I mean, I don't think I ever signed a waiver when I did that, but it was in a very closed circuit place where I couldn't have went off course if I wanted to.
See, I'm seeing things that's some that are you need to sign a waiver. Yeah, so there's another one that says all minor drivers must have their waiver co-signed by a parent or a guardian. So how the fuck did these kids get in to a go-kart place when they're not? This is a bad town.
But like I
this
said,
is what I'm learning.
I went go-karting and I didn't have to do any of that. So
I've done that, but I had to get it signed.
I guess maybe it depends on what the track.
Maybe it's how powerful the carts are.
And that seemed somewhat powerful. But anyway, it goes to shit, and he immediately goes off track, and the kids are following him, Luca on foot, while the others are on go-karts, trying to stop him. Then we go back to Simon, who is sitting down at the vegan shop with his laptop open, which has nothing written except this is the font I chose for my essay. Which I feel like is more than Derek would have put, so that's kind of progress.
Yeah, that's true.
The waitress he was interested in comes over, and they start chatting, and eventually he just said, oh, I like your shirt. And did you notice what her shirt said, Vanessa?
No, because I blacked out. I was bored.
Truman's Last Chance.
Isn't that an episode?
Yes. That's the episode that Truman cheats on Casey.
Oh, right. With her cousin?
Yeah, Vicky.
Yeah.
But also, that episode,
does that mean the girl's a Truman?
But that's the band they were going to.
Oh, God, I hate it.
Wonder if Truman is the front man, or they just literally put that as because it's the popular episode titles to just kind of put it in there. It's it could be a band name, and they made it a band name. So so she asks him if he's a fan. He's like, oh yeah, of course, huge fan. And then she asks if he's going to the show that afternoon. And Simon's like, of course, yeah, I just have to pick up my cousins, then I'll head over. And then right at that moment, Kai comes riding down on the go-kart into town, and he crashes into this booth.
Yeah.
And then it cuts back to Casey in the bath with the water still running, and she's seemingly really relaxed. She's reading this magazine that has a dog on it. I don't know.
Is she like a car, like one of those dog show people?
Could you imagine? My God. Remember that episode where she had a dog? They like pretend dog.
Oh yeah. I bet you she is. She probably like maybe she has a dog that is at home by itself, I guess.
For the whole weekend.
Yeah, and and it's like
She was
she enters it in
expecting it.
these Westminster dog contests.
She then gets a call from Simon, and she's like, "Oh, did you remember to pick up the kids?" But then he tells her, "Yeah, but they're at the police station." So of course Casey freaks out and gets out of the tub without shutting off the water. And she's yelling to Derek that the kids are in custody. But my thing is, Casey, okay, for first, so she's like, Derek! And just that alone,
He's gonna come find her.
like, especially how hysterical she is. What if he ran up the stairs?
Mm-hmm.
She is naked.
She knows. She knows. She knows.
But, you know. So that was an interesting little thing there. And then we see Casey park her van outside the station, and she quickly goes in to it to see the kids. And as they're all talking to the officer about what happened, it is revealed that he's George and Nora's neighbor, and that the greenhouse construction they've been doing has been a nightmare. It didn't happen fast enough. He wants that moolah now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like, it costs a lot of money to produce a greenhouse that can survive Ontario winters.
Right.
The devil's lettuce needs to survive, and it costs a lot of money. That's why he's mad. This criminal enterprise. I can't wait for the criminal enterprise AU we're gonna be talking about at some point.
So, and then he's also, coincidentally, the father of the girl Simon liked at the vegan restaurant.
Ha 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 ha.
So Simon asks if he can get her number, and he's like, absolutely not.
Yeah, he doesn't want his daughter wrapped up in this criminal family he works with. She has a future.
Yeah. She's a cook, so...
She has a future in the culinary business.
Right. Essentially, though, the kids are let go. They just have to pay for the damage. And I thought it was really funny, though, as they're leaving, Skylar's like essentially asking to be deported back to Paris.
Yeah, we like that. Deportation.
As they get back to the house, Derek and Skylar are in the kitchen, and they're obviously eavesdropping on Casey and Luca's convo. Though to Derek's credit, he was like, you shouldn't be listening to that. And she's just like, shh.
He tried to warn her that insults would be flying.
Right. Well, so Casey then asks Luca, like, what's going on with you? You're going to the principal office like 4 times that month. And Derek's like, that's it? I've gone like 4 times a week and I have my own share.
It's true.
And then she's like, she's asking about that day and getting everyone arrested. And she's like, even Derek never got arrested. And then he was like, actually, there was that streaking incident in freshman year.
Yeah, and that we never heard of till now.
Well, no, not freshman year high school. I think freshman year college. So, and it's just like, does Casey know about it? Or did she just, like, not remember, or, like, not, like, count it? Like, she's not trying to say, like, yeah, even Uncle Derek got arrested.
Yeah, maybe she's trying to be like, even he was a delinquent, and he wasn't as bad as you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love how, like, she relates this things directly back to Derek. Like, no matter what she's saying, like, she just, like, she talks about Derek. Like, and then, she says that she knows she's been really busy, but they can talk. And he says, like, he doesn't want to talk. He's already talked to his dad. And then he's like, but really, like, orienteering, like, that's what you have us do? And she was like, well, I thought that would be fun to do with Skylar. And Skylar was like, no, Luca's like, Skylar's so boring and she's a snob. And obviously, Skylar hears this and she's upset.
Listen, 100%, we've discussed this, Skylar's 10 times better. So fucking Luca, fuck off. Fuck off.
Casey then says, like, he's sounding like a snob now and that he should make an effort to get to know her. And Luca said he's not a kid anymore and she can't make him go on kiddie dates and do stupid activities. Which, Luca, you're fucking 14, not 24, okay? Like, you're still very much a child. And then Casey takes his phone and tells him to clean out the barn. And then Derek then says he'll talk to Luca, but Skylar tells him to not say a word to Luca or Casey either, and then she leaves the house. But also, I wanted to point out, like, Luca says he talks to his dad. But it's just like, so is the dad not talking to Casey about anything that might be concerning? Like, hey, Casey, Luca was
Well, you know what
talking
I
about
think?
this, and like, I'm a little bit concerned that maybe he's not coping well. Like,
I've decided that even though we said he's dead, if we're being realistic, he's not dead, but we like to think he's dead. Uh, what if they're actually separated and Casey is trying to like
that's my
pretend
headcanon.
everything? Like she's like, no, everything's fine. He's just off in hockey. We're still together. Blah blah blah. But it's like
That's my headcanon that, like, with all this stress of him always constantly being away, that, like, maybe they're not really good right now.
So maybe that's why she's
Maybe
like,
even potentially
oh,
separated, but they're, like, not divorced. So, like, maybe they're just trying to see, like, what maybe could work. Like, I don't know. Like, I definitely got a vibe that Casey isn't completely happy with the situation.
so yeah, so maybe they're separated and she's trying to hold up like the image that they're the perfect family to everyone
Right,
else,
because
kind of
that's
thing.
obviously a
Yeah.
Casey thing, and like I think
Yeah.
especially because she comes from a divorced family, that it's like an
Mm-hmm.
extra like I don't want to do this to my kids, so she
Mm-hmm.
tries to like prolong the inevitable almost. Like she doesn't want to see seen as a failure either. Like I couldn't even get a good marriage. Like you know what I mean. So I think
Like
that could
yeah.
definitely be something that could potentially happen. As Skylar goes outside, Derek follows her, and he's telling her to just not listen to Luca, that he didn't mean it. He's only 14. She was like, so I'm 14. And then Derek says girls mature faster than boys, but Skylar says that's just an excuse.
It is.
It is.
It is 100%.
I mean, it definitely is.
But at the same time, you can tell it's true as fuck in real life. Guys are like, I'm so, I'm old, you're old, and I'm pretty sure guys still act like they're children
Right.
at our age, and we're like,
Which is fine. It's fine to like, you shouldn't emotionally be a child. Like, if you still like playing games or like doing like child things, like that's fine. Like, they're
mm.
considered kiddie because it's just like,
Are you calling me out and calling me a child because I
no,
play
I'm not
video
saying
games?
that.
Is that because I play video games and Dungeons and Dragons? I'm a child still?
But I'm just saying, like, it's fine to do those things, but it's just like you shouldn't
Yeah.
also have the mentality of like, ew, she's a poopy head. Like, and like basically
Yeah.
just be an asshole because you're not emotionally mature enough for it.
Yeah, I get that.
And that she's been punished enough and she just wants to go home. Derek says that he can't because their grandparents are traveling all the way back just to see them. We're having this party for them. She's like, we're not having this party. You can't even organize the cuddly drawer. and he's
It's
like,
true.
and he's like, well, who says like the forks and knives have to be like separate or something like that?
Because chaos is not how it
And it's
works.
just like I just like pure chaos to live with
Oh
Derek.
yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, a hundred
Like, you know,
percent.
like what you have those like little cutouts where you're like, okay, you put all the forks in this little like area,
Yeah,
and he just has a drawer and he just puts them all in
that's chaos.
there.
I hate it. But have you realized talking about like immaturity and cutlery now, don't you realize as you get older, the only thing you want to do is go shop for kitchen stuff?
um, kinda. I mean,
Because
I'm
I will
very
go
content with what I
places.
have, but it's nice when it's just like, ooh, I got a cheese grater.
But like I go to like Canada, so I go to like Canadian Tire and I'll just browse and go, oh, I want that. And it's like some random kitchen thing. And I'll be like, oh, that's a good ladle. I'm just like, I'm like, this is what maturity looks
Yeah.
like.
So Derek asked them, like, she's like, but like, hey, we can do the party together. You're great at organizing, like, But she refuses, and so like, if this is what family is, she hates it, and she hates him for making her come.
That's rude.
Casey is then shown in the living room working, while Kai draws and Molly does a puzzle. Kai then notices a drop of water fall onto one of his drawing and says it's raining. So Casey looks up to see a wet spot on the ceiling. And she's looking at it and she's just like, and all of a sudden the realization comes that she never shut off the water in the bathroom. So she runs up the stairs to go deal with that. We then see Casey in the bathroom with numerous towels trying to soak up all the water that flooded the bathroom. And Derek comes in to tell Casey something but notices the water. And Casey's like, the shut-off mechanism didn't work on the bath. So then now everything's flooded.
Is there a shut-off mechanism, or did you just not turn off the machine?
Well,
the machine, the tap.
But there is like a thing on the tub that's supposed to like stop it from overflowing.
Is there?
Yeah, there's like a little thing that's supposed to do it, I think.
I'm confused. What is this mechanism? I'm Googling now. This is new.
I think it's like a little hole.
Okay, I was gonna say, is it that random fucking hole in the tub? I have no idea what it's for.
There's like a hole in the tub right near the spout. And
okay,
extra water is supposed to go into it if it rises above a certain level.
Is there truly a thing? I remember there was a hole in the tub, and I was like, what is that for?
That's essentially what it's for. But who knows? Maybe if it's consistent, like water coming out, like it's not going to work effectively because it's basically supposed to be just like spillage. Like you like raise it up, then you get in the tub,
when you get in,
and then, obviously the water rises, so it's supposed to catch that water, but not like 5 hours worth of water filling up.
Yeah. God, I just thought she was making an excuse, being like, "This tub's mechanism." Like, yeah, it's called using your hands, Casey. You forgot.
You learn something new every day, Vanessa.
What can I tell you? I'm too busy looking at ladles to know how a tub works.
Derek then asks if he's now the together one, and she's the problem child, and she just glares at him. She's like, "Get me a mop!" And then, like, he's, like, completely loving this whole thing. Like, he's just standing against the door, like, looking at her, and then she's like, "Mop!"
It's not even the same, though, because, like, problem child has nothing to do with what's happening. She's just neurotic as fuck.
Her kid is causing a lot of chaos.
Yeah. But no, Derek's just,
in comparison, has been an angel.
Yeah. I was expecting Skylar to be, like, a Casey, but she's, like, not. She's, like, an in-between.
Well, I think that's exactly what it was, like, I liked also about the movie. It's just, like, Skylar and Luca weren't exact copies of Derek and Casey. Like, you could obviously see that there was some influence of, like, who raised them. Like, Skylar is a lot more mellow than Casey ever was, but she still likes organizing things and, like, planning things.
Luca's just a piece of shit. So...
Well, but I think also, like, he's obviously, like, a little troublemaker now, but he's not as harsh, like I said before, as Derek.
I don't care.
Like, usually, he's not going to, like... He wouldn't directly call Skylar, like, those things that they said about her to her face. Whereas Derek would have been like, "You're a keener." You know? It's just like, you know. So I think in that way, he's a little bit more polite, but obviously he's still, like, an asshole.
No, he's a piece of shit.
So, in the barn, Luca isn't cleaning like he's supposed to be. So, he's playing hockey with a broom and a worn-out tennis ball. Skylar comes in asking if he's having fun, and it looks like she's going to give him a piece of her mind about what he said about her earlier. But it's then that Simon makes himself known in the barn. He's reading through Casey's old essays, and he found one that he can use for his paper that he only has to change, like, one line of.
Okay, because she totally wrote about anthropology in high school.
He says then, like, you know, now he can go off to see Truman's Last Chance with the vegan shop girl, and takes the sheet off of what I assume is the infamous Prince that we hear so much about in the series.
The car they used in the show, wasn't that the Prince?
Yeah, but I don't think we actually saw it.
I thought we did, because in the movie...
Apparently George has had this car for years, so I think have to assume.
I think the prince is like, we see it in Vacation with
Yeah, I think
Derek.
that's what everyone assumed too, but then like they don't have that car, so I think it's just something else that changed it. They never
I
refer to
think,
it as the prince, but he's had this car for so long, and it's just like, where would they have kept this car the whole time they lived in?
well, remember, it's 18 years, so maybe this dude is like, I need a restoration project.
Well, either way, it's a station wagon, a very old station wagon that he like uncovers.
But yeah, he's retired now. He needs a project. He's selling pot. He has the money. Restoration project. I've cracked the code once again.
But Skylar tells Simon that before he sees the love of his life, that he should get the straw out of his hair and maybe change his shirt, which he goes off to do. So as Simon leaves, Skylar gets in the back seat and puts a blanket over her so Simon won't see that she's there. And Luke is like, "Where are you going?" Like, and she was like, "Well, I want to go have some fun." And he was like, "So would you want me to go?" And she was like, "Would that spoil your fun?" She's like, "Yes, it would spoil it. Don't come." But of course, he obviously goes. So
Of
he
course.
joins in the back seat as well.
Yes.
We then see Casey getting off the phone. She tells Derek that the only person who can come in to fix the ceiling can't come until Friday since he's rebuilding the booth Kai crashed into earlier.
Is there only one person in town?
It's a royal place, and obviously only like 15 people live there, Vanessa.
You're right. This is Walnut Grove. It's Little House on the Prairie now. Which I would love, by the way. Where's my Little House reboot?
God's sakes.
I'm gonna start a new podcast called The Little House Reboot.
Well, then it's never going to happen.
Shut up! All my Little House fans, rise up. We can talk about Laura Ingalls being a hoe.
Prairie Daisy AU.
Oh my god, don't get me started! I love Little House so much.
Well in that environment because he would actually have to like work.
It's true. He'd be like out at crack of dawn, like fucking hoeing the fields.
The schoolhouse teacher though.
No, oh, Casey would actually. Yeah.
That's like the only real big job that she'd be able to do.
That's the only thing a woman can do back then. You can't live as a woman back then.
and like Lizzie would just try to be push the boundaries of like, I can do it too. And they're just like, shut up, girl.
Yeah, they'd be like, shut up, woman. Go back to the kitchen. God. What a time to be alive. The 1860s. Or 1880s.
She said that they're, So Derek then makes a noise, and Casey immediately says, like, well, they're not going to cancel the party since George and Nora are so happy about it. And Derek's like, well, I'm over my head. And Casey said, like, I know you need help. And, like, Derek thinks this means she'll finally help him. But she's like, Kai is a great decorator, and Molly is a great list maker. And he's like, I need real help here, Casey.
Yes.
Well, you can't ask Simon either because he's working on his essay. And then at that moment, she notices that he's leaving the house in the car. And then she's like, well, of course. And she's like, well, why don't you ask Skylar? And then he admits that she's not talking to him since they had a fight.
Yes.
So Casey is like, well, that's normal, right? And she's like, so how long do these things usually last? An hour, 2 hours? And then he's like, it's our first fight. And it's killing me. Oh, and then like he eats the sandwich, one of the sandwiches Casey had been making for the kids, and she looks at him and he's like, that was for the kids, Derek.
It's for the kids.
But I like to think that he's eating the sandwich because he's stress eating, which is something he did in the show.
Yeah, 100%.
Because he's just like, I remember him like eating that bowl of chips like the whole time they were like with the dog episode.
Yeah.
And so he was stress eating because, that's all he could do. And then George and Nora, they show up to the border to get back into the country. And of course, George keeps making these wisecracks at the border officer, which Nora is afraid is going to get them in trouble because he's like, oh, I stole this one's heart. And, he's like, oh, I guess you have to stop us because I have these guns. And he's showing off his, like, muscles.
God.
The officer said everything with them is clear, but the car they have is stolen, and it's in connection
I knew it!
to a jewelry theft in New Jersey, so they have to park at a special place and obviously, have to get interrogated. So then we see George and Nora in the interrogation room, and
We're in question.
What?
When they were in New Jersey, they were in Newark?
I think so, yeah. I think that's what they said.
This is clearly a crossover for The Sopranos.
I never watched, so I never would have made that.
I haven't finished the show, but it takes place in Newark, New Jersey.
Obviously, so
And
this guy works for the Sopranos.
the creepy guy works for The Sopranos. It's all connected. Not only do we have a Little House and alternate universe and a Crime Family alternate universe, but now we have the Sopranos alternate universe coming in as well. You're welcome.
So anyway, George and Nora are in this interrogation room, only to face an Officer Lassiter, who is the one and the same Principal Lassiter from the
I knew he looked so familiar. I was like, who is this guy?
So apparently Derek's final graduation prank put him over the edge, and he quit being a principal and he started becoming an officer, since it was a profession that demanded respect. Okay.
I'm like, are you not aware of how cops are viewed now, sir?
Yeah. It's like he finally becomes an officer. He's like, I will have respect now. And everyone's like, shut the hell up, man.
Everyone's like, fuck the police. Copaganda. This is Copaganda, this show.
Lassiter said the car rental agency corroborated their story, so they are free to go, but they obviously can't use that car anymore since it needs to be impounded, since it's with an investigation. But he does say to give Derek his best before leaving. We then see Simon driving down a dirt road on his way to the concert, but then suddenly he runs out of gas. So he has to leave the car to go and get some more, leaving Skylar and Luca in the car alone and stranded while they wait for Simon to come back.
Here's my question.
Yeah.
Did you not check the gas?
That's what I was thinking too, because I'm like, especially if the car hasn't been used in a while.
Or
I would just look anyway at the gas.
Or is it like, oh yeah, I have gas, but I can make it to a gas station in time, but you don't know how far the gas station is?
He doesn't know the area.
Little House land?
Like he's hoping he's going to get to one before it runs out.
Yeah. Like, we are in Walnut Grove, so the house is so far from the city. So, like, it's believable.
This concert's in the middle of nowhere, so it's even, like, more in the middle of nowhere.
Fucking hell.
So back at George and Nora, they are taking all their stuff out of the trunk of the car that they can no longer use, and George does take the box with all the jewelry that's in it. Not knowing that the jewelry's in it, obviously. He just takes a box because he thinks it's theirs. The thief then, that had been tracking them, sees all this happening, and he sees George and Nora hitch a ride with a trucker. And then he goes off to go follow them to their house, basically, because he knows where they live. With Luca and Skylar, they are still in the car when they notice a van coming down the road. They then notice Simon is in the car with who they assume is the vegan shop girl, who we then find out is named Willow. As Simon and Willow are talking, Skylar is running after the van, trying to get their attention to no avail. So as Skylar gets back to the car, Lucas says that they can stay there for hours or walk back. And Skylar said he can do whatever he wants, but she's going to the concert.
Hell yeah. Go off, queen.
And then Luca reluctantly follows.
Go off, queen.
Back at the house, Casey is staring at the water spot in the ceiling, asking Derek if it's getting worse. Derek says he's a little tied up right here, and you can see he's buried in these paper chains that Kai has been making for the party. And the look Casey gives Derek after he tells Kai great work, that was so damn cute. Like, she's like looking at him like, why aren't you the father of my children?
No. This is why she's gonna actually murder her husband. She's gonna murder her husband so Derek can be the father of her children.
He's like, he's so great with the kids. I found a good replacement.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Molly then said she's finished the guest list, but when Derek looks at them, she admits she doesn't know any of George and Nora's friends, and that they are all BTS members that she put down.
BTS members.
I don't know any of their names, so you could have been like, whatever. Like,
Oh my god. Yeah.
my knowledge of K-pop is that BTS is a band.
Yeah, that's literally me too. I don't know any of their songs. I don't listen to K-pop.
I accidentally know 2 of their songs, and I was like, "Oh, that's them." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I know
anything.
Nothing.
I'm truly like, that's a thing.
Derek then asks Kai to beg Skylar to help them. So Kai says he will, and that he'll cry if she says no, since that's worked with Casey. And Casey admits that yes, it does work like a charm.
Mm-hmm.
Casey then asks Derek again if the water stain is getting bigger, and Derek says probably. And Casey said, but it'll just eventually dry up, right? And Derek's like, no, it's probably eating through the floorboards as we speak. And Casey's like, oh, that's comforting.
I mean, it's true. Like, get a fan, point the fan down into the floor, pray it dries up
faster.
There's like,
but with how much water was up there, you can expect that, like, especially for how long it was, that it's just not going to dry up, Casey. That water had to go somewhere.
Yeah, but you have to get like those heavy duty fans like people get if there's like wetness in the walls or something and they're on 24 hours.
Yeah.
So like you have to get those super heavy duty ones, which she should afford because she's the lawyer. And he's a rock star, so they can afford to get the good shit.
Kai then comes racing in to say neither Skylar nor Luca are in the barn. And Casey and Derek basically figure out that they went with Simon.
Classic.
And they both call their respective kids, but neither have their phone. So with Skylar and Luca, they are still walking on their way to the concert. Luca asks if he stated how much he hates walking, which Skylar says numerous times, and that he's free to go back to the car. But Luca admits he doesn't know where the car is now.
Maybe if you had stayed.
Said, like, she wished she could help, but she's too much of a boring snob.
But also, if only you took that activity, you would know how to navigate to get back to the car.
Right, see? Casey's trying to teach them life,
skills.
Good life skills.
Yeah, like if you could have taken this orientating class, you could read a compass that you don't carry. Wait, phones come with them, but he didn't bring a phone, so fucking dumb bitch.
Well, Casey took it because she didn't think he'd be leaving the freaking barn.
I know, but I'm just saying, where's my compass? Where's my compass at? Compass. See? I could survive. I could survive.
Okay.
I don't know which way am I pointing, though. North is the...
So basically, Luca asked if that is why she was trying to stow away, because she was mad at him. And she admits that she stowed away because she was trying to have fun, which she does, as far away from the family as possible. And then Luca's like, then why did you invite me? And she was like, I didn't!
Classic.
I loved her little freak out because it really felt genuine. Because he was like, then why did you invite me? And she was like, I didn't!
Hell yeah, it's true.
So Casey is now trying to call Simon, but he's not answering the phone. He's not answering the phone nor the text, mainly because he thinks she found out about him stealing her essay. So back with Luke and Skylar, they seem to be lost. She then spots a baby bear in the distance, and she wonders if it's lost too. And Lucas says no, but it probably has a mother nearby that will see them as a threat.
That's true.
Hell yeah. And it's a brown bear, so they are the aggressive ones.
Yeah, black bears are wimps.
Yeah, black bears, if you make noise, they'll run away most likely.
Yeah, no, brown bears.
They'll still get in your face if you're around their baby bear.
Yeah.
But brown bears, They see you, you make noise, and they're like, I'm gonna kill that bitch.
Yeah. Are we talking like just general brown bears, or like are we talking like grizzly bears? Because grizzly bears will kill you and your family who are 80 miles away.
I just know brown bears. I don't know what the hell this.
Let's see, brown bear. This is a lot of Googling. We need to know these things for the podcast.
We have black bears where I live, so for the most part, they don't bother people.
Okay. Okay, a brown bear and grizzly are common names for the same species, so they're the same thing.
Okay.
But grizzly sounds way cooler.
Because they sound like alpha.
They just don't say that.
I'm just trying to say they sound dominant. That's all I'm trying to say.
You know, they're just dope. Grizzlies will fuck your shit up and your mom's shit up and your whole family's, even though you're 80 miles away. They're that boss.
So Luca basically tells them like that the mother might be nearby and see them as a threat. So then she proceeds, then Skylar, I guess, kind of like gets worried. So then she proceeds to run in the opposite direction. And Luca's like, no, you're not supposed to run away from bears. And then Skylar then falls down the hill and hits her leg really badly against like this log.
Classic.
But when she hit it though, I was like, ooh, that cannot be good. I was like, that definitely sounded like it hurt like hell.
You know what? She did the stunts herself, I'm sure.
Derek and Casey, with Molly and Kai in the back, are now in their car trying to track down Simon. So Derek is trying to get Casey to remain calm, saying Simon might not just have charged his phone, which is why he isn't answering. But Casey gets mad, saying, like, oh, yeah, just let me do all the worrying and work by myself like you always do. And Derek's like, what? Where is this coming from? You know, like she's just bringing up this kind of stuff all of a sudden. And like she brings up the memory of Derek dropping out of college and she had to go pack up his stuff and break up with his girlfriend for him. And apparently she's brought this up numerous times because her two little kids are like, yeah, we've heard this story before.
Oh, God.
But like, what if she was the girlfriend?
Mm-hmm.
Like something happened. Maybe she didn't want to tell the parents, and he was like, well, then I'm going to leave the continent because I can't deal with this.
Imagine that. I can't deal with this. I'm leaving the continent.
But then also, what?
Doesn't his mom live in Europe?
She was in Spain for a while, but I don't know if that was long term or just momentarily.
Well, maybe that's why they're like, I want to go to Barcelona to just be with grandma. Just saying. It makes sense. Don't question me.
So back with Luca and Skylar. Luca, you know, he reaches Skylar and he assesses her injury. He notes how bad it is. And he puts his jacket around her leg, I guess, to stop like the blood flow so it doesn't get worse. He then admits his mom made him take first aid classes so he could babysit his little brother and sister.
Excellent.
Which I can see Casey doing, because she's like, you're going to babysit the kids, you need to know how to save their lives. But of course, like that doesn't mean not just
how
like
can you
caring about them.
I was gonna say, like, how can he save their lives if he's not even there? Because he's already abandoned them. You should be teaching your children, the little kids, first aid so they can take care of themselves once Luca abandons them.
Yeah. This is how you give yourself the Heimlich remove.
Yeah. Like, this is how you do solo Heimlich and you ram yourself into a chair. Like, she should be teaching these kids these necessary skills because she should know her son is a sociopath.
She should.
And will abandon them.
She probably puts enough of them away to know the signs.
And she's somewhat one herself.
Yeah.
It's okay. She should know these things.
Back in the car with Daisy, they're trying to think of where the kids could be, and Molly brings up the girl from the vegan shop. So Casey goes to the shop and finds someone working there, and she is told that the girl went to a concert in the middle of nowhere, but she has her number. So she texts Willow, telling her that if she's with a guy named Simon, that his sister is freaking out and that he needs to call her ASAP. Willow then relays the message, and he's like, oh my god, she's relentless. She probably just found out about the essay. And then he admits that his essay is actually an essay that he got from his sister.
Like, why do you need to tell this person this?
He wanted to go out with her. Like, he couldn't go to the concert and still finish his essay, so he decided to take the easy route with this.
Yeah, but you could just be like, oh yeah, it's almost done, it's fine, and be like, yeah, I totally didn't steal it. God, these people are horrible liars.
So Willow doesn't seem impressed by Simon with how he's handling all this. So then Simon leaves the van to call Casey, and Casey asks like where Luca and Skylar are, and he says he has no idea. And when Casey asked if he was going to take them to the concert, he was like, "Oh, I would have told you guys if I was going to take them anywhere." And he's like, "I'm not that irresponsible," or something like that. It's like, Simon, I don't know about that. Because he didn't even tell them he was leaving.
It's true. Delinquency runs in the family.
Then Casey suggested that maybe they stowed away, and Simon admits he did hear noises, and maybe that's what it was. He says he'll go back to the car and check if they are still there. So back with Luca and Skylar. Skylar can barely walk on her bad leg. Luca's stomach grumbles, and he says he's hungry, and then he brings out a granola bar that Casey makes him keep in case of emergencies.
Good. Smart.
But says, sorry, it's not a croissant.
Shut up.
She accuses him of thinking she's snotty, and he's like, he didn't mean that. But she says that she knows he did, and he admits he did, but that she's constantly bragging about the cool things she gets to do, and it's tiring, but he was just teasing. And Skylar admits that she's not used to getting teased about, which makes sense because, like she says, she doesn't go to school, and she doesn't have any siblings. And the one like sibling she does have was just born, so it doesn't really work that way.
Yeah.
So and she's like, but it didn't feel like teasing, which I agree, it didn't feel like teasing. So Luca admits that it felt like she was rubbing her cool life in his face. And Skylar tells him that he has a good life with his hockey star dad and hotshot lawyer mom, that she didn't even get to see her own mom that much. So it looks like they're starting to like connect in a way, understand each other a little better. With Casey and Derek, they are still outside the vegan shop waiting to hear back from Simon if he found the kids. And Casey asks what could be taking Simon so long, but Derek tells her to relax and that the kids know to stay by the car. And then she pulls him by the shirt and brings him close and asks, what makes you so sure?
Yeah.
And Derek looks shook.
Yeah.
Casey's phone then goes off and she dumps her whole purse on the table to get to it, but Derek gets to it first and then he answers the phone. Simon admits they're not by the car. Simon says he needs to go back to the house and Willow offers to drive him since family is important, despite the fact that she doesn't really think they're a good match now.
Good. She's learned her lesson.
Derek is then seen doing like deep breathing exercises next to the car because he's like panicking. And Casey gets off the phone with the local authorities that are going to help look out for the kids. So back with Luca and Skylar, Skylar's talking about all the countries she's been to, and Luca's like, you're doing it again, where you're just like kind of like rubbing in your life to me. And Skylar says he knows he has a good life too because he has a big family and Molly and Kai are awesome and he has friends. And like Luca said, she gets to hang out on tour buses and hang out with her dad like 24/7. Which the kid only seems to like care about his dad. He doesn't seem to care about like anyone else.
Yeah.
Like fuck Molly and Kai. Fuck my mom.
I'm telling you, this I just can't stand him. Luca is garbage.
Whereas his dad is gone for 5 months out of the year playing hockey. Then off in the distance, they start to hear the sound of music, meaning they are close by to the concert. However, Skylar cannot walk on her legs, so Luca has to find the concert on his own to help her. Back at the house, Casey tells Derek that Simon is going to take care of Molly and Kai. I think she says something about the authorities wanting them to sit tight and wait for any like further information, but they're like, fuck that. So then they go off into the car themselves. And while driving, Derek is telling Casey what happened with Skylar back in Paris. And she admits that she saw his viral video of that night.
Of course.
So they both had viral videos that each other saw. And And Derek says that Skylar needed family, so that's why he brought her here, but that backfired. And Casey said that when Luca was little, he followed her around everywhere and was so helpful and would tell jokes. But now he thinks she's bossy and controlling. And she's like, "Can you believe that?" And Derek's like, "Huh? No."
No. You bossy? Nah.
He definitely holds back. Like, whereas like younger
Yeah.
Derek would be like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, yeah, you are bossy and controlling.
Yeah.
He definitely
God.
holds back, like, in this movie, which I think is like obviously like a maturity thing, I would assume, but you know. Derek then says maybe if he had a few more rules, like this wouldn't have happened. And then Casey's like, "Well, I had a bajillion. Can you?" And like, obviously that didn't work out. And I think
Hell
because they
yeah.
need each other to balance each other out, because then maybe they wouldn't have as many rules or not as many rules, and it'd just be a nice little rounded balance.
Yeah.
But I really love how they're venting to each other about this stuff. It's like they're each other's confidence. Like, they know they're going through the same thing with each other, so it's nice that like they can tell each other like everything.
Yeah, exactly.
She gets a call on her phone and puts it on speakerphone. It's Luca. And then he tells them that Skylar is the one that is in real trouble, and obviously Derek is like, "Oh my god."
You know what I like about this whole thing?
What?
Is the unrealistic scene here is that people know their parents' phone number. No one knows people's phone numbers anymore. No one.
But you know what? If anything, I would have Casey, along with that granola bar he carries around.
You know what? She probably sews it into every one of his clothes, like her phone number.
If
So
found,
he'll be
call
like,
Casey McDonald.
yeah, if found. Literally, that's probably what it is. Holy shit.
Because like I know my parents' phone numbers.
I don't.
Because they haven't changed in like 20 years. And that was at that point where it's just like, everyone's numbers.
See, my mom's number hasn't changed, and I still can't. I can like get halfway through it, and then I'm like, is it 2 2s or 2 5s? I'm like,
but I know my mom and dad's phone number. I know mine. And then I know my sister's because hers is only 2 digits different than mine. My brother, though,
I know
I have no
mine.
idea what the hell his number is.
I know mine. Mine's really easy, so I'm like, okay, I won't forget that.
Give us your number, Vanessa.
Yeah, let me give it to you. But also, I still remember my childhood phone number.
I remember that too. The one I had longer.
But this is let's date ourselves. This is back when you didn't have to put an area code in front of your phone number.
I had an area code.
Did you? Because ours was like 7 numbers. That's it.
I think right when we moved to my regular house, they started with the area codes.
Like ours was like, you just go like, oh, I'm gonna call my friend.
215 for Philly.
Yeah.
215.
It's just ridiculous. And I remember like, at one point it was just like, yep, punch in the 7 numbers, you're done. And then now it's just like, oh, where I live, there's 3 different area codes.
Yeah, they have a couple different area codes for where I lived, but.
And I'm like, bro, why? And it's like, oh, because there's so many people with phone numbers now. They can have the exact same phone number as you, just a different area code.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's fucking nuts.
And that's what I hate, because especially where I live right now, they still have just the 7-digit numbers on their businesses. Because it's so old, they have never updated their signs.
But does it even call at that point?
But at that point, I'm like, okay, if I wanted to call you, I don't know the area code around here.
Yeah, but I'm like,
I don't know that stuff off the top of my head, so how do I call you?
Yeah, because I'm like, how does that even work? Would you just put in that like 7-digit number? Your phone's not going to call. It's like, no, it's not a complete phone number.
Right. So I'm like, these people, like, they're like 20 years behind on this.
God, I wish it was 20 years behind right now. Fuck. I wish I was like
even been on.
I wish I was 11 again.
Right. So then when we see Skylar, it is like pitch black out now, and she's like singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star as she tries to like comfort herself. And then a little helicopter then appears and finds her.
Excellent.
Yay! So Derek, Casey, Skylar, and Luca, they get back to George and Nora's place, and Skylar now has crutches for her leg. Derek is very cute, offering to carry her, even though they're like already in the house.
Yeah.
She doesn't really need to be carried anywhere anymore, but okay.
Classic.
Simon then comes in saying the kids wouldn't go to sleep without seeing the older kids. And then George and Nora come into the house from their long journey, and they looked really roughed up themselves. Nora's hair especially is like all over the place.
That's what happens when you're in jail.
But that was my thing. They were in a truck with a trucker. So, like, did she have the window open? Like, I don't get what the hell happened. That was the last we saw them.
Maybe it was just so fucking dank in that fucking thing. She's like, open the window right now. Or she's like, tie me to the fucking top of this semi. I cannot deal. And she just rode the top of the semi.
So they asked what happened to them. And so Molly gives them this, like, abridged version of basically everything that happened. And then Kai's legs fall out from under the ceiling. And his legs are just dangling there. And Casey then turns to Nora and George, and she was like, I was going to tell you. And then she runs off, and she goes to Kai. And then Derek's like, would now be a bad time to tell you that the party's canceled?
Hell yeah.
So the next morning, Casey is alone in the kitchen, drinking some coffee. And Derek strolls in, asking if she didn't sleep either. Casey brings up the ceiling, saying, like, I think she said he should pay for it.
I thought he said we.
I don't know. Since George and Nora put all their savings into this place.
I mean, you're the one who fucked it up. You're gonna pay for it. Why are you expecting them to pay for it?
Well, I guess because it's their house. But, like, Derek's like, well, weren't you the one that left the tap running? And, like, she gives him, like, these puppy eyes and whines. She's like, come on, Derek.
Come on, Derek.
And, like, the way he just tilts his head at her and looks at her, he's like, he's gonna give it.
Oh, yeah, no, I've seen you reblogged that recently.
Yeah.
I checked, and I went, what's this scene? I was like,
Both Skylar and Luca then come down, and Casey's impressed that they're up before noon. They say they want to help organize George and Nora's party to make up for everything that happened, and that they don't even have to help them, even though there's only a few hours left to pull everything together. So Casey goes, amazing! And then she turns to Derek to ask if he wants to go out to breakfast at the vegan shop. So, like, of course, a date, like, you know.
It's a date.
Yeah. So Derek agrees, though asks if they can stop for sausage and bacon on the way.
That's me, 100%. I am Derek in this. I go for brunch every week,
and then the
as you know.
Are left dumbfounded because the parents left. And they're like, they have to be kidding, right?
I wish they weren't.
And then they come back in saying, like, yes, we're kidding and we're help.
No, you should just go. Go have your breakfast date at the vegan vegan restaurant.
Part of me is like, oh, Derek, like, they're so in sync that her and Derek, like, Derek could pick up that she was, like, joking and he just went along with it. Or, like, like, she was like, oh, Derek, I'm just joking. He was like, what?
I want bacon.
He's like, fine. But she said they'll help, and Derek's like, no, I'll help. He's like, you have work to do, which is like, that shows real development, Derek, that you're putting aside.
That's growth.
Yes, that's growth.
That's growth.
That you're willing to take on more work so that Casey can do her work.
So Casey can do less. It's growth.
And then Skylar said she even made a spreadsheet of what everyone has to do. And, like, Casey is just so proud. She's like, my niece. At night, George and Nora are then lured to the darkened barn to be surprised for their party. And, of course, Gabe is there, and he hits on Skylar in front of Derek. But she quickly goes the other way, and Derek doesn't look happy. Again, like, this other thing of Gabe, I just feel like his presence just means, like, they're trying to, like, show a future potential storyline for what another series could have.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, what otherwise? Why is he needed in this like movie?
It's
He's
true.
not. We then get a glimpse that the thief has found Nora and George's house because yes, this is still a plot that has happened. I had completely forgotten about this plot up at this point, and I was like, "Oh yeah, he was trying to find them."
Yeah, because he stole their like registration thing for the car from the car dealer
Right.
dude.
So we see Simon in his room writing his essay around this time. He gets scared of the sound, but it ends up just being Willow. So they decide to go out for a walk, giving the thief an opening to explore the house for the stolen jewels. Just as the thief finds them in George and Nora's bag in their room, Luca and Skylar show up in the house to find their phones. As Luca finds his phone in the nightstand in his grandparents' room, he notices a figure in the bathroom, which is the thief. He quickly locks the door on them so they can't get out, and he alerts Skylar to get out of the house. Which I think it's very smart of him to have put the chair in front of the door.
Up against the doorknob
Right,
thing? Yeah.
because I don't think I would have done that. I would have just ran out of the house like a madman.
Oh, same. I don't have a calm head.
And then the intruder's legs fall through the ceiling and he's stuck.
Excellent.
Skylar and Luca then go to the officer who lives next door and also happens to be at the party and lets him know of the intruder. So that's just a happy little coincidence, don't you think?
Oh, hell yeah.
At the party, it looks like Nora just gave a little heartfelt speech about her thankfulness of everyone there. And Casey is all teary-eyed, which again makes me feel like there's more going on there for Casey.
Maybe.
Like, I just kept feeling that way. Skylar and Luca then take the little makeshift stage and say it's time for some music. And they tell Derek to get on stage with his band.
Ugh.
And he says, my band is in Paris. And Skylar's like, not that band. And then she's like, from London, Ontario.
Did you not think the fucking giant drum kit behind you that says D-Rock does not give anything away?
I was thinking that too, but I was like, well, maybe he thought they were just using that because it was in the barn.
But bro, you don't own drums.
But he might have
You don't
had
have-
like them, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, it clearly said D-Rock on the drum set, and then he's like, what? D-Rock?
Yeah, I was like, the fuck?
And then Sam comes out, but unfortunately Ralph didn't because he's a brain surgeon and he's in surgery.
Oh!
Which I think is the funniest freaking thing. It's like, of course, give him like that job that you would think he would never in a million years be. But I have to wonder, did he get brain surgery himself before becoming a brain surgeon?
Yeah, that's right.
Like, he was the prototype, and he was like, now I can do it too.
Yo, like, when they said that, my eyes rolled so far back into my head. I was like, that is so dumb. I can't.
I know.
I'm like, I can't.
Because it's just like, of course he would have a job that no one would think.
It was funny, but I was like, come on. There's no way.
So Derek asked then, like, who's going to be on drums since Ralph isn't there? And Skylar says she will, since Hugo taught her.
But here's the thing. She has a bad leg.
I know, that's
drummers have to use their legs to play.
She plays through that pain.
He's just built different.
Sam says they'll need a guitar player and notions to
But
George.
he's a guitar player.
I know, I didn't understand either, but I think that was just a way to get George on stage to relive out his George in the Jungle days.
Oh god, I forgot about that. I was so confused. And then I was like, whatever, and now it makes sense. George in the Jungle.
Derek then says,
No.
oh, all they need now is a vocalist. And Casey's like, fine, you twisted my arm. Yeah. And then she scurries up on stage, and they sing. He said it was over when it was not over.
I hate that song! And you know why I hate it? It's just because it's that over and over, and then you just throw in a na 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 na.
Did you see that? They added some lyrics to it.
What's that? The na na na?
No, they added actual lyrics to it. Because, yeah, in the original show, it was just You said it was over, but it was not over. You said it was over, but it was not over.
No, 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 no.
But they added some actual lyrics to this one this time.
I didn't even notice that. I was just like, how is this a song?
But yeah, I was like, when I saw that it happened, I was like, oh my god! Like, remember in the original, they like grinded on stage.
Oh, yeah! No!
And then this time, they were both singing into the mic, and it looked like Sam just like squished them together so they can kiss because they were so freaking close.
Too much. Too much. It's too much.
Oh gosh. We then see a shot after the song's over of Casey looking at all the hung up photos that were in the garage, older pictures of like her kids and Skylar, and then some of like pictures of like Casey, Derek, and all from the original show. And Casey looks so nostalgic. But again, I just feel like she has this sadness to her. She's crying, but it also feels like it's not a happy crying. Like she looks really emotional.
She regrets her whole life. She married the wrong man.
Yeah.
She slept with the wrong man. She had the wrong man's kids. Her life is regret.
So it just makes me wonder if there is more to her emotions. And like, obviously, we're not delving into it because it's a 90-minute movie, and why get too depressing if this is as far as this is going to go.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think they could branch off of it if they did have a series, because honestly, if let's just say it does go to series and Derek does stay with her, why would you need a third adult in that house?
Because the dad is dead.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, so it's just like there's no point for a dad. So the point of the series has to be that like she needs extra help. Why does she need extra help? Because she's divorcing her husband. You know what I mean? So
it's over. They said it was over, but it was not over. No. It's over. They're over.
And then when like Luca comes over to her, it seems like she's really trying to be strong for him. And like if it was happy tears, you would think like it wouldn't matter. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah, it's over. It's
I might be just thinking way too much into it, but that's just what I keep thinking when I watch.
Mm-hmm.
We then go over to Derek and Skylar. She asks if they're all good, and he says they're more than good. And then it's like also because they found the thief and the jewels, there was like a reward fee, and it'll help pay for all of the damages in the house and the booth. So like in my opinion, they only did this freaking weird ass plot so that everything would basically be fine in the end with all these damages.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So I'm like
100%.
I'm like, okay, whatever.
You're like, I'm done by this
Casey
point.
then goes over to Derek, and she's like, oh, so am I going to see you guys again before the kids graduate? And then he goes, hey, Case.
Yeah,
yes, there. And then he asks her if she still has that guest house in her backyard. And she asks, who wants to know? And they leave it like that.
Because they are wild.
And then it goes to Skylar now singing, you said it was over, but it was not over. Which I wonder if they mean like, we saying it's over, but like, is it really over?
No. I love how you just pulled that out of thin air. You're just like, there's more coming.
There's more coming. Because obviously.
Is it over? But it's not over. No.
My thing is that I feel like Derek, he's not thinking long term right now when he asked Casey about the guest house. I feel like he's like, after we're done touring, maybe we could spend a week or two of the summer with you guys. Because
what I don't understand.
Skylar and him miss family.
Mm-hmm.
But then like during this time, Casey does get divorced with her husband. And so it's just like, I can't deal with all these kids by myself 12 months a year, like, and so he's like, well, maybe I can stay and help you. Skylar can actually go to school and make friends. Like,
let's be real. If you get split up, you don't have the kids for 12 months a year. It's divided custody. But since we know she's actually killed him, that's why it's 12 months out of the year.
But also, he's away 5 months, so it's not like he can really take care of them a lot. I mean, look at Derek and Casey's parents. Derek's mom like never saw the kids that we ever saw, And then Dennis, he never saw
I
his
feel like
kids.
she gave up her custody. I feel like they both gave up
Well,
custody.
maybe, but like I think that it was just worked out that it's like if I want to see the kids, I could see the kids, but if not, like it's not a every other weekend type situation because of our situation.
Yes.
But I just think that might be how it could, because like I said, if this does go to series, which I think Ashley and or Mike have like kind of teased that it could potentially become one, that there's no reason to have 3 adults in the house because there would
Mm-hmm.
only be 4 kids. And I could
You know,
see,
she's
like,
killing
helping
him.
Casey.
She's killing him. That's it. She's killing him.
So I could see, like, her trying, like, needing help, and he's like, "Okay, I can come help." Because, like, if he's a rock star, obviously he doesn't have a job that he needs to go to, so he can easily take care of the kids, like,
Mm-hmm.
like, he can pick them up and everything if needed or something like that, like,
Yeah.
and I think, like, he would want maybe, like, "Oh, Skylar, she doesn't have any real friends, so, like, this is a way for her to, like, actually attend a regular school and have a regular life and like kind of give that to her." But I saw something else that someone pointed out. It's like if he's really genuine about moving in like long term with her, it's just like, dude, you're a rock star. Why can't you just get a house nearby?
Yeah, this is the question I wanted to
That's
ask
why I was
was
like, it can't be long term he's thinking about right now. But eventually it will
I,
turn long term because he feels like he needs to help Casey.
I wanted to ask that because I was like, bro, why are you just like not staying in Canada? Why are you in Paris?
That's probably where he broke out. Like that's probably where he gained like.
Is that like he's not famous anywhere else except France?
Well, I know I think he's famous worldwide now, but I think that's probably where he like gained traction.
But it doesn't seem like anyone lost their mind because, like, I guess we never really see him
But
with
again, he
anyone.
was in a town with 15
You're
people.
right. They don't have electronics there. They don't know these things. They don't know these things.
Right. So they don't have the regular electronics there. And plus
They
people a
don't
lot
have
of
the
people there looked
radio.
like they were old. So
Yeah,
they're really out of
they
touch.
don't. They don't have radio. They don't have FM. They have AM radio.
But overall, I like this movie. I especially like of course I would want more Daisy, but I was very content with what we got, especially because I know they're probably trying to give us the best without like obviously like Casey's married, she has these kids with someone else, but it's like the whole movie, it's like her and Derek are essentially together in parenting and co-parenting. And it's just like you could see how easily it could be for them.
Hmm. Still hate it.
You're
Poll.
just a hater.
I'm gonna put a poll down. No, there's no poll because everyone will vote yes. But
Well, I mean, I know some people were just didn't like the concept because like a lot of people they have these college AUs of Daisy where they
yeah.
get together in college or but Derek didn't even finish college. And I think that's some things that people aren't like really happy about. Um
Mm-hmm.
and like obviously like with me too, like I don't like that he's a rock star. But, you know, if
Mm-hmm.
it gets more Daisy content, then I'm willing to have anything that's new. And considering everything we knew going into this movie, I was happy with what we got. And like I didn't mind the kids. I thought, you know, the teenagers were whatever because like I feel like teenagers are just anyway. Because they're never going to be Derek and Casey from the original.
No.
But I did think Molly and Kai were adorable, and like I enjoyed their little scenes because I just thought they were adorable.
You said you wanted more content. Does that mean you're returning to write?
I mean, I don't know,
That's not a no. The people will love this.
but
She did not answer. So people, get ready. She's gonna bust out a story.
I don't know. It depends. But I did start reading some fanfic last night because I was like, I haven't read Nick and Derek fanfiction in like forever, and I was like, you know what? Let me just bite the bullet and start reading it. And basically, the whole night when I couldn't sleep, I was reading a fanfic.
Was it horrible?
No, it was good.
Okay. I'm gonna go right now and look.
But yeah, so I just hope that this does well enough that they decide to pick it up for a whole series, because I wouldn't mind seeing more Derek and Casey. That's all.
Oh, look. The first one that pops up, Casey decided she didn't want to get married at all.
All right. Well, this has been the podcast for Life with Luca.
Luca.
I know we are currently on season 3 of the regular one, but I don't think we wanted to wait another 10 years to actually cover Life with Luca. So we were like, we got to do this now.
You're welcome. You're getting a 2-hour something podcast.
2.5.
It's gonna be so long. Huge. I've already tweeted. I've tweeted out alert. I tweeted out alert. This podcast is gonna be long as fuck, and people have already liked it, and they're like, "You're doing it."
I think it's good that we did this movie, because then it should show us how long it might take us to do Vacation with Derek when that comes up.
At least I like that one.
Now, see, I have my reservations about that one. But true. I mean,
see, I have to like it. We got the squad there. We got the true squad.
And see, in my mind, I don't care.
I need it. Okay.
All right. Well, that's all for today, because this is gonna already be so freaking long.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh my god.
All right.
It's 3 hours.
Bye bye.
Okay. Have a good one. I'm gonna go cry now.
Bye bye.
Bye. It's been 84 years. The sleeps. Cut that. I need to bring it up because I don't know if I heard